Evening and welcome to the City School District of Albany Board of Education meeting. On behalf of the board, I welcome you to our web-based meeting. We are so pleased that many people have been joining us virtually over the last few meetings and continue to do so, and we hope that will be the case this time as well. If you need to let a friend know how to connect, they can find instructions at albanyschools.org/BOE. Also, be aware that our meetings are always recorded and the audio files are uploaded a few days after the meeting on our Board Docs platform. So people who can't listen right now can hear the meeting at their convenience. Meeting by web is part of our effort to ensure that our meetings remain accessible to the public while also protecting the health of our community and doing our part to reduce transmission of COVID-19. Normally by law, we meet in person, but as a result of Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 202.1, we now legally meet by video conference, and we plan to do that until further notice. For any members of the public joining from home, we will show the relevant slides and documents in the virtual meeting screen, and you can also access them via albanyschools.org/BOE so that you can control them on your own device. We invite those of you who choose to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In addition to the Pledge of Allegiance, we always focus our meeting by restating the mission of the City School District of Albany, which is to work in partnership with our diverse community to engage every learner in a robust educational program designed to provide the knowledge and skills necessary for success. Mrs. Adams, do you have a report for us?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much, Madam President and members of the board. I would like to begin my report tonight with a heartfelt thanks to several of our community partners. On Wednesday, Hannaford and DeBellis Subs teamed up to feed the district employees and volunteers who have been feeding our students during the COVID-19 crisis. Hannaford and DeBellis delivered subs to other lunch items for all 175 individuals who are working every day to make our meal distribution efforts a success. It was a very welcome thank you from all of our staff and volunteers who now have distributed nearly 240,000 meals to our students during the COVID-19 crisis. I am grateful to Hannaford and DeBellis for recognizing and supporting these efforts. The Capital Region Chamber of Commerce is also assisting us with the donation of bags that we will use to send our students' belongings home with them at the end of the school year in June. We already have received donations from JCB Specialties, Price Chopper Market 32, and the College of St. Rose. We are grateful to these partners and to the Chamber for its help in securing additional donations to support our students. Please stay tuned for more information about our schedules in June for students and employees to pick up their materials from their buildings. A reminder for our students and families that tomorrow will be a review and check-in day. This is an opportunity for teachers and other school staff to check in with students and for students to make up any work that they owe for the third quarter. For high school students, that applies to the second quarter as well. The deadline for all students to submit makeup work is Friday, May 29th. Also, a reminder that there will be no online instruction on Monday, May 25th in observance of Memorial Day. All district employees will be off that day. I hope everyone has an enjoyable and restful long weekend and happy Memorial Day. This concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Adams. It's very hard, I think, for all of us, especially who are parents currently in the district, as these superintendent's reports are quite different than they ought to be at this time of year, which is a difficult thing, an emotional thing, I think, for everyone, especially with some of the most recent announcements from the governor. So after the superintendent's report is the time of our meeting that we set aside for public comment. Hopefully I'm on the right page on the agenda. I know I made an error earlier this week. We always welcome input from the community about the decisions we are making. Usually people come to our meetings and we get to hear them face to face, and they have up to 3 minutes to talk about whatever they think is important at the microphone. Of course, that's not possible tonight since we're meeting virtually. So for virtual meetings, we are accepting comments by email to boe@albany.k12.ny.us, by phone to our dedicated voicemail line at 518-475-6016, or by regular mail, which you can send to 1 Academy Park, Albany, New York, 12207. All of our personal contact information is also available on the district website at albanyschools.org/BOE. So now we are going to read into the record all of the comments received by 4 o'clock today. There were no voicemail comments received today, so they were all written. And the board members have elected over the last several meetings to read the comments directly out of the letters to you. A few of us, each board member will read a few letters. I personally have found that extremely meaningful and helpful. I always read every single letter, but reading them aloud is also extremely helpful for me to internalize the point of view of the author. The only change we will make to those letters is if the author used a specific faculty member's name, we will be passing over that as we read. It is part of our core value that all of our staff deserve to have concerns about them addressed in private. So, Mr. El-Menyawi, I think you're going to go first again. Is that right?
Correct. Okay. So the first comment I will be reading is from Megan Britton. Dear Board of Education, the Behavior Department, while fairly new, has been irreplaceable to the growth and recent positive outcomes the district has recently experienced. There is a direct correlation to students successfully graduating and behavioral improvement across the district. The changes our team is directly responsible for that maybe isn't in the forefront of everyone's mind that has positively impacted. Graduation rates and Regents credits are the number of students able to learn due to high intensity and frequent behavior issues being diminished in the classroom environment across the district. As the ALC/now TCCE behavior specialist since the 2012-2013 school year, we have been able to correctly target and assess behavior concerns, implement a strong Tier 1 or class school-wide system for behavior, and develop plans to assist students whom need a little bit more support to meet the standards expected of them. I have seen so many kids graduate whom would otherwise not made it without the focused attention and support. Students who frequently are the kids who slip through the cracks, that's our caseload. Without a direct behavior specialist for a particular student population and building, the rapport necessary for the rapid behavior improvement and support to teachers to model the specific techniques just will not be present. With a consultant model, the behavior specialist isn't really home in any building. To really know the kids and be a part of the teaching team is really key in building the trusting relationship to help improve a situation. It has taken me years to break down the fear of allowing someone else inside the classroom to comment and assist with new strategies to improve behavior. If you take the behavior specialist out of the team, they are now an outsider. The success and progress we have made is about to take a giant leap backwards. Without the community and the board rallying behind the behavior team that is so directly connected to the district's improvements. The timeline of the start of our department and the improved statistics of the district shouldn't go unnoticed or unmentioned. It's easy to miss us as we are the group doing the work in the background, but please don't forget we support the success of the district, and without all of us, that improvement will be much impeded. Please reconsider the cuts to the behavior department. Plead with the federal and state government if necessary. With much respect for our district and gratitude to be continued, member of our team, please hear my plea to reconsider the behavior department cuts. Sincerely, Megan Britton, TCCE Behavior Specialist. Okay, so the next comment I will be reading comes from Chanel Brown. Dear Board of Education, I write to you to voice my concern of the dramatic budget cuts to the Behavior Specialist Department. I am one of the behavior specialists that have been affected by these cuts. I'd like to outline some of the many things that I and my behavior specialist colleagues do on any given day. I have been a city school district of Albany employee for 18 years. For the past 3 years, I have held the position of behavior specialist. In this time, I have seen my role increase, adding more responsibility to my day-to-day activities. In my building, I am solely responsible for all behavior plans, making sure they are created, updated, graphed, and implemented with fidelity. These documents play a huge role for my students, making sure they are able to receive the supports they need in order to be successful. I have heard in the various meetings I attend that the staff remaining will have to take on this work. My question is, how will they be able to take on this work and continue to carry out their current role effectively? In addition to document keeping, behavior specialists are called upon to implement mandates such as positive behavior intervention and supports, PBIS, trauma-informed schools, therapeutic crisis intervention for schools, TCIS, multi-tiered systems of support, MTSS, second step lessons, behavior coaching, support with staff, etc. Again, these are just some of the mandated supports we provide. Then there are supports that we give our school community as a whole that are just as important to the success of our students. Example, giving students sensory breaks, helping to create calm corner spaces for students, helping staff, redirecting students when they struggle, giving behavioral professional development opportunities to staff, etc. Our city is in crisis, not just by the pandemic that we are all affected by currently, but by the amount of crime that we see in our neighborhoods. In order to help reduce this, we must give our students more, not less. I love what I do and the students I do it for. I'd like to think that I play a small part in making things better in our schools and in our city, thus making our students better people. Thank you for taking the time to read my email. Respectfully, Chanel Brown. The next comment I will be reading, and I apologize if I mispronounce the name, is from Marcella Clays Eichhorn. It states, Dear board members, I have been working at the Albany City School District for the last 2 years and can say that I am very proud to work as a behavior specialist for our district. I am writing to express concerns regarding the recent budget proposal that will lead to a major reduction in my department and in our district. I have the honor to work with great professionals, other behavior specialists, social workers, school psychologists, homeschool coordinators, hall monitors, speech therapists, teachers, teachers' assistants, custodians, administrators, and special education department. In order to deliver the best work and plan that we have to make sure these students are successful in school and in their daily lives. My department does not work alone. We all work united for what matters the most here, our kids. Being split between schools is overwhelming as it is, and I cannot imagine the impact that cutting behavior specialists will have on our kids and families that will need even more social, emotional, and behavior supports after this pandemic. Also, I cannot envision the consequence that our staff will face, particularly when we are trying to balance academic and behavior needs while our main goal is to educate and prepare these students for life. Our kids should be our priority as they need the best of us, especially in moments like this. I strongly believe that the impact of these cuts will be detrimental to our kids, parents, staff, and our community. Thank you for listening and for your time. Marcella Clays Eichhorn, Masters of Science in CAS, Behavior Specialists, Thomas O'Brien Academy, Science and Technology. The next comment I am reading is from Sabrina Fontenot. It states, "Good afternoon, members of the Board of Education. I write to you as an Albany County taxpayer and the president of the local chapter Delta Mu Omega of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, Inc. We are a chapter with a rich history of education and service in the Capital District area. We are indeed in a new world. Because of COVID-19, we are forced to find new creative ways to live, care for our children, and still do our jobs with the utmost integrity. Setting forth a state, city, or school budget, especially in these times, is no small feat. For that reason alone, we commend Superintendent Adams for her leadership. Although budgets everywhere are being ravaged, and while no one likes to hear about reductions regarding our children's education or their programs, this pandemic has made reductions necessary. Across our state, difficult decisions are being made every day. It is truly admirable that Cabinet and Management Confidential employees of the district have agreed to a salary freeze. Being the example is the best way to lead. We trust that you, the members of this board, will continue this budget process and perform in the best interest of our children. On behalf of the students in the Albany City School District, thank you for your hard work and thank you for your time. Sabrina Fontenot, President of Delta Mu Omega Chapter Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, Inc. And that was the last one that I would be reading.
Okay, sorry for the delay. All right, I'm going to read 4 comments. The first public comment is sent in by Willow Zelinsky. Good evening. I'm writing today as a proud Albany teacher and resident. It's been an incredibly difficult time to be an educator, and I appreciate the work the board has done to keep this ship afloat, so to speak. I am, however, disappointed as a teacher that the reductions in force in our new budget are not being carried out equally across teaching and administrative positions. I'm not sure that I understand the justification for these inequalities, and clarification would be appreciated. As a community member, I am also worried that the loss of student-facing jobs as well as arts funding will have a major impact on our students' potential success in the years to come. From both perspectives, I am concerned that the decision has been rushed, and I ask that the members of the board seriously consider the many public comments that have been streaming in and the timing that limited our public engagement. Thank you for your attention, Willow Zelinsky. Okay. Right, and the next comment comes from Jimmy Delaunay. Okay. Dear Board of Education and Superintendent, I do not envy the position you are in regarding the budget reductions. Please don't forget to remember how far we have come. Our graduation rate has increased from 50% to 70% in 3 years. It is a result of a team effort. Successful schools happen due to all positions working together toward the common goal. Administrators are there to help our students, families, teachers, and staff. Support staff assists the administrators, teachers, students, and families in their schoolwork and personal issues. Teachers do their very best to deliver proper instruction to our students. Everyone plays their part. Please do your part and remember how far we have come and how far we need to go. The conversation regarding reductions are necessary to balance the finances of the business. I think the real questions are, despite the reductions, how is the district making adjustments to covering the programs which our students need? How would the reductions affect graduation rates moving forward? And what systems are in place to ensure that the people affected by the reductions can be supported moving forward? Thank you, Jimmy Delaunay, President of Capital District NPHC. Okay. The next comment comes from Ms. Edith Leet. Dear members of the board, my name is Edith Leet, and I am a resident of Albany. I am also the proud parent of 2 children who attended Albany schools from kindergarten through high school and have gone on to excel in college and have demanding professional careers. I am also a former board member of the Board of Education and a candidate for election to the current opening on the board. Along with many other citizens of Albany, I am distressed by the positions you will be eliminating if your proposed budget is passed. At a time when we need to provide more emotional and academic support, as well as physical space to our children, you have proposed increasing class sizes and eliminating people and programs that provide such support directly to children. I have listened to the many anguished appeals from parents, teachers, and children not to make these cuts, and I agree with them. You are going in exactly the wrong direction. Now I want to address one small cut that will also have a negative impact on our children. You propose to eliminate the district's volunteer coordinator, which is only a half-time position, but it is a position that is the gateway for parents and community members to become involved in our schools. As tutors, mentors, experts, and helpers, volunteers work directly with children and become additional caring adults for children to interact with. They give teachers more time to concentrate on teaching and the ability to undertake projects that the teacher could not do alone. And they deepen the impact the connection between the school and the community. Volunteering in our schools is complicated. It's more complicated than it used to be. Our volunteer coordinator handles the logistics of screening applications and arranging for background checks. She also coordinates the needs of each individual school with the abilities of volunteers to meet those needs. This kind of coordination is essential to enabling all of our schools to have the assistance they need to help children succeed. If we go back to the previous practice of having volunteers offer their services directly to others, even though the schools with fewer volunteers may have the greater need, please reconsider restoring this position. We need it now more than ever. Many thanks, Edith Lee. And the final letter I'm going to read is...
It's above.
Thank you. Here it is, got it, okay. I apologize, I was having problems with the spreadsheet. Okay, just give me one moment. Okay, here we go. Okay. Final public comment is from Beverly Ivy, a retired elementary school principal in the school district of Albany. Good afternoon, members of the Board of Education. I'm writing as a former administrator with the City School District of Albany and as an Albany taxpayer. We are facing unprecedented times dealing with COVID-19 and the impact it is having on school budgets across the nation, as well as local city and state budgets. Every day, I listen to Governor Cuomo explain that if New York does not receive federal dollars, he will have to make drastic cuts across the board. That includes school revenues. These cuts will severely impact the City School District of Albany's budget. While no one wants to see administrators, teachers, support staff, and programs cut, if there is no new revenue for the budget, difficult decisions have to be made. I support Superintendent Adams in the tough decisions she has had to make during this unprecedented time. I also commend the Cabinet and Management Confidential employees agreeing to a salary freeze. They are leading by example, just as Albany Mayor Kathy Sheehan is not taking a salary for the balance of the year in order to close the city's budget gap. Everyone must do their part to sacrifice for the greater good. Thank you for all the work you're doing on behalf of our students. Beverly Ivy, retired elementary school teacher, City School District of Albany. And that's my section.
Okay, the first comment I'm going to read is from Santeria Murray. I have listened to the board members over the past few weeks. I am very concerned at the many members of the public who are openly devaluing those in the school district who work tirelessly to coordinate programs, support the delivery of quality instruction, monitor the progress of our children, and provide the opportunities for our students and families. I am not writing to villainize any one group of employees, but for this community to think that administrators are not as valuable as teachers and support staff is beyond me. We should be able to get to a resolution where we do not go after each other. I am aware that our upper level administrators have taken a salary freeze. If I remember, the salary freeze across the district would assist in keeping about 52 positions. Why wouldn't the faculty and staff who say they love our children so much take a salary freeze? This does not make sense. I think we need to all be aware that simply pointing the fingers is not the answer. I urge the board to continue the work on balancing and thinking creatively about our budget reductions. Centeria Murray. The next message is from Kim Wallace. I urge our public to mobilize and send letters to the president and the governor to support education and value public education. No one wants to see the programs reduced or our staffing reduced. However, our board would be responsible if it did not make the decision to address the budget and balance it as it is seen fit. We can build and restore until we get to better times. We love our district and hope that our public supports the budget, as if it is not supported, consequences are even worse than moving forward. Kim Wallace, parent and community member. The next message is from John Davis. Hello, Board of Education and Superintendent Adams. 1. Last week, the board voted for and passed a budget proposed by the superintendent. 2. Your next job is to sell the budget to Albany voters. 3. On Tuesday, you heard hundreds of public comments you did not have the benefit of when you voted on the budget. 4. Several themes emerged in the comments. I don't need to list them. 5. Many Albany voters do not have students in Albany schools and do not closely follow school board issues. I myself am frequently asked by these types of people whether or not they should vote for the school budget. 6. If you want to enlist people who follow these issues in your campaign to sell the budget to Albany voters, you need to address the concerns you heard on Tuesday. 7. The vote is 6 weeks away. 8. The superintendent, possibly with the help of the board or a subcommittee, should draft a plan reallocating the proposed budget cuts to respond to the concerns you heard Tuesday. 9. While the plan would be non-enforceable, it would demonstrate a good faith effort to address our concerns. 10. Such a good faith plan would likely convince many who might reluctantly support the budget to do more than just vote for it, but to actually promote a yes vote to friends and acquaintances. Thanks for the time, John Davis. And the last message I will be reading is from J. David Brown. Dear Board of Education, I'm writing this letter to express my support of Superintendent Adams. The school district has improved measurably over the last few years under her leadership. More students are graduating, morale is at an all-time high, and the community is all in for Albany. I want to encourage both parents and board members to be supportive during this difficult time, as we are all faced with very hard decisions. It is difficult to make decisions for cuts or reductions, but that may be a necessary outcome as funding from the state is reduced to the district. Let's not confuse difficult decisions with a lack of understanding. The leadership understands fully what our children need and is doing the best they can given the limited resources. The success of the Albany City School District depends on us all working toward one common goal. We need the board, administrators, teachers, teacher assistants, and parents to all do their part so that we can continue to focus on what matters the most, the children. It is time for us to not fight with each other, but rather put our energy toward the real enemy, which is a system that is not equitable for our children. Let's stand up and do what is right and make the necessary sacrifices during a difficult time so that every child wins, not just a few. I, for one, trust Superintendent Adams. I would encourage everyone to support her vision and direction. She has a heart for these children like no other leader that I have seen in my almost 30 years in this community. I only hope you will put your trust in her and support her as much as I do. She has never let us down, and I'm confident that she never will. Thank you for your tireless efforts for our children. Thank you for listening. Sincerely, J. David Brown. And that is the last of my comments.
Okay. The first comment I shall read today is from Mandini Ashley. Dear Board of Education, I'm writing this letter to express my support of Superintendent Adams. The school district has improved measurably over the last few years under her leadership. More students are graduating, morale is at an all-time high, and the community is all in for Albany. I want to encourage both parents and board members to be supportive during this difficult time, as we are all faced with very hard decisions. It is difficult to make decisions for cuts or reductions, but there may be a necessary outcome as funding for the state is reduced to the district. Let's not confuse difficult decisions with a lack of understanding. The leadership understands fully what our children need and is doing the best they can given the limited resources. The success of the Albany City School District depends on us all working towards one common goal. We need the board, administrators, teachers, teacher assistants, and parents to all do their part so we can continue to focus on what matters the most: the children. It is time for us to not fight with each other, but rather put our energy towards the real enemy, which is a system that is not equitable for our children. Let's stand up and do what's right and make the necessary sacrifices during a difficult time so that every child wins, not just a few. I, for one, trust Mrs. Superintendent Adams. I would encourage everyone to support her vision and direction. She has a heart for these children like no other leader that I've seen in my almost 30 years in this community. I only hope you will put your trust in her and support her as much as I do. She has never let us down, and I'm confident she never will. Thank you for your tireless efforts for your children. Thank you for listening. Sincerely, David Brown. The second comment is from Anne-Marie Lippett. Dear board members, the district website says the district serves approximately 9,300 students. The enrollment from the district report of December 2019 shows 8,967. Enrollment for the high on the website shows 2,500. Reported by the AHS principal on April 23rd, enrollment is 2,300. This matters because with a difference of 200 students, this equates in dollars to $6,140,000. If one uses the proposed district cost of $30,700 per student. For a difference of 333 students, this equates to $10,223,100. Sincerely, Anne-Marie Lippett. The next comment is from Tori Chappell. I'm deeply troubled by the budget reductions proposed. I've taken a hard look at the impossible task that you have taken on in balancing our district's budget. I believe that you have a huge dilemma on your hands. I'm reflective of all the positive work that you and the superintendent have done by moving our district forward past many challenges. I remember our past, and I don't want to revisit that. Everyone wants to maintain all the services which have gotten us here, and all the people who have gotten us to a good space. Our enrollment has dropped over 5% in recent years. It only makes sense that our staffing drops as well. No one wants to lose a job. I do not believe that a district wants this to happen either. We are in hard times, and our staffing reductions are inevitable. Can we look at a salary freeze and what jobs could be restored? More specifically, if APSU takes a pay freeze, will that restore jobs for our unit? We can do this together instead of turning on each other. We should be trying to work together to get us through all these challenging times. I appreciate your time, Tori Chappell, homeschool coordinator at Albany High School. The last comment I have is from Joanne Owens. Dear Board of Education and Superintendent, I do not envy the position you are in regarding the budget reductions. People do not remember how far we have come. Our graduation rate has increased from 50% to almost 70% in 3 years. It is a result of a team effort. Successful schools happen due to all positions working together towards a common goal. Administrators help our students, families, teachers, and staff. Teachers deliver instruction to our students. Support staff assist the administrators, teachers, students, and families in their schoolwork and personal issues. Everybody plays their part. Please do your part and remember how far we've come and how far we need to go. The reductions are necessary. I think the real question is, despite the reductions, how is the district making adjustments to cover the programs that our students need? Best regards, Giovanni Owens Jr. That's all I have for tonight. I think Ms. Wilson is next.
Thank you. And my first comment is from Victoria Martell. Dear board members, I hope this message finds you all doing well and staying healthy during these challenging times. Like many others, I'm writing to you to voice my serious concerns regarding the massive frontline position cuts that have been made throughout the district. The expression of concern and outrage among district staff, parents, and community members regarding these district-wide cuts has been clearly made known to the board. However, I have not yet heard specific concerns regarding the 40%, 8 out of 20 position reduction of the district's behavior specialist department. This is my second year as a building behavior specialist in the district, working at Edmund J. O'Neill Middle School of Excellence. Though I lost my position due to these cuts, I am thankful to have been offered a position as a special education teacher in the fall. However, I feel it necessary to explain the devastating impact this department reduction will have directly on the students and families we strive to serve, as well as my colleagues who will remain. The district's behavior specialist department has grown consistently since its addition to the district's support staff almost 9 years ago. Potential cuts to the department several years back were stayed as funds were made available to support the continuance of these positions. Why? Because there was a need for the work. The impact of our work may not always be visible or recognized to district stakeholders, resulting in our positions seeming expendable. However, this is not at all the case. We work closely with our building administrators, psychologists, social workers, guidance counselors, and teachers to provide many services, interventions, and necessary social emotional supports for our students and their families. As this department has grown, the expectations of our roles have also grown. The reduction of behavior specialists will result in our work falling on the shoulders of our student support team colleagues, who are already so overburdened with their own tasks and responsibilities within their positions. With the district adoption of an MTSS model, the behavior specialist role is extensive and crucial at all 3 tiers. With regard to PBS coaching and the Tier 1 building initiative work, including the close work we do with the teachers around classroom management and supporting other district and building initiatives in the classroom setting, the district is losing key individuals who have fulfilled these roles over the last 2 years. As a former special education teacher, my teacher classroom support as a behavioral specialist, including classroom management, coaching cycles, and assistance with implementing Tier 2 and 3 behavior plans is much needed and often requested. This is especially true for new teachers or teachers new to working with an at-risk population of students. Remaining behavioral specialists working in 0.5 positions within a split consulting building model will by no means be able to continue to this PBIS Tier 1 work without it impacting the fidelity of their Tier 2-3 responsibilities. With confidence, I can assure you that in a high-needs building such as Edmund J. O'Neill, I was doing the work of 2 full-time behavioral specialists for the last 2 years. Unfortunately, due to the high demands of our building, much of the work I did lacked fidelity due to being pulled in so many directions. We currently have approximately 70 students at Edmund J. O'Neill who are receiving at least 1 Tier 2 or 3 intervention or support. The need of these students and other students who require occasional crisis intervention or other non-Tier 2-3 supports cannot be met with the reductions of this department. Our work at the Tier 3 level that includes the development, implementation, maintenance, and review of functional behavior assessments and behavioral intervention plans is very in-depth and should not be completed by individuals who have not had prior coursework or training. It is not just about writing plans, but rather involving working as a team to appropriately provide this intervention to our students. A behavioral specialist working in a building half-time will likely not be able to complete this Tier 3 work with fidelity. Additionally, behavior specialists and other support team members were required this year to provide support to classroom teachers with presenting the second step lessons to students. Social emotional learning is vital to our student population and supported by the district. I know this because I recently participated in the district's SEL committee on researching possible programs for our district. Who will continue to support this work when our other student support staff and administrators are already overwhelmed with responsibility? Lastly, I would be remiss without adding that given our current pandemic challenges, our students are being further impacted by trauma during this time. Trauma-informed care, along with equity, is something this district is highly invested in. When our students hopefully return to school in the fall, they will likely be faced with even more changes to their academic program routine. At best, it will be a transition from our current virtual learning back into the classroom. Regardless, these transitions prove even more challenging for students who are affected by trauma, and as a result, will see an increase in maladaptive behaviors, needing even more student support and crisis intervention. Who will provide these supports to ensure that our students are receiving the supports they need to be successful in school? Equity. A half-time behavioral specialist in each building
will not nearly be enough, especially for buildings with higher needs. It is completely irrational given the needs prior to closing and further challenges awaiting us in the fall. To reduce any support staff, especially an entire department, by 40%, I request that the board please refer to these points when reductions in staff are being considered in the future. I sincerely appreciate your time and consideration, Victoria Martell. Thank you. And the second comment I have is from Angela Dua, so I apologize if I mispronounced. And the letter begins. Jay came up to me one day and said he loves me when I smile at him because he knows I'm going to give him food, and he starts to smile. B struggled at the beginning of the school year, and in a month and saw me in the hall. I gave her a hug and told her I missed her, and she smiled. Another staff member said that that was the first smile he had seen this year. N was having a hard day and aggressively kept acting out. I took him to the back of the room and did exercises with him and made a game of it. He finished and looked at me with an odd expression and said his brain was clear. The next year I'm subbing in ISS room and he is sent in, sees me and starts exercises. He is smiling when he is done. A lost his father recently, and each day he logs into my recess time. He talks to me about the funeral, how many tears he cried, and shows me pictures. He loves that I am always checking on him. P had a hard day and I hugged him tight and told him it would help him calm him down. He knows it helped him in a certain mood. It says tighter, Mrs. D, when it's just a bad day. JJ is having a bad day and I take her out of the room and walk around for a bit. It turns out her mom embarrassed her in front of others and she did not know what to do, how to deal with it. We talk and she returns much calmer. R is a smart mouth who could not focus, but I found when he was near me, he would push the button on my watch and focus on class. It continued to help, so I gave him my watch each day. He did a 180 with behavior, and I continued utilizing other coping skills for when I was not there. Kay has a bad attitude every morning, and I worked with her on changing her mindset each day until she was doing it on her own. Axe could not sit still and struggled with focus. I tried different options and found he worked better and sat still with a sensory bottle. It was apparent when we went to virtual classrooms, the kids were missing each other, and H came up to me at the beginning of the school year and proudly told me she still knew her 9's multiplication. Could not focus on the lessons, so I started virtual recess where they come and talk to each other. This has been hugely successful. My table at school was always full of students because I make a strong connection with them. My kids were performing better on tests and behaving better in class because I was there to help with behaviors and support the teacher so she could focus on teaching. I did science and social studies lessons and projects, ELA for 4th graders, managed behaviors, mundane tasks like copies, and whatever the teacher asked or needed to make a successful classroom. I worked as a substitute, then building sub, then into the TA position in the last 1.5 years. I ran the yearbook club this year, ended up doing the most of the book on my own because of the closure. I know how much this book would mean to the kids who have lost so much this school year. I love my job, I love the kids, I love the work, the challenge each day brings, and watching when the kids master a new skill and start to believe in themselves. I believe in education. A teacher's job is incredibly hard. With a TA, it is easier and more successful, and as a result, more fun. I was devastated when I lost my job on Monday, May 11th. Sincerely, Angela Dua. And my final comment is from Teresa McCabe, and it starts with the question, is it possible to get a detailed understanding of how this unbelievable amount of debt just happened to appear? My understanding is that it has nothing to do with COVID-19, but is a result of the last few years during Superintendent Adams' employment. Could you please respond to my request, as many others are wondering, but are possibly afraid to ask because they are employed by ACSD? I am just an extremely concerned taxpayer and parent of one child still in school. Thank you, Teresa McCabe. And I'm going to pass it to my colleague.
Thank you. Just adjust my screen. Yes, I am reading one from Mr. Michael T. Logan. Dear Board of Education, the new Tau chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Inc. Albany chapter and its 50 members would like to address the Albany City School Board. As we rise, we would like to lend our support to the Albany City School Board and Superintendent Adams for her courage, commitment, and bravery to make sound and fair decisions in these unprecedented times. The City School District of Albany has seen great improvement and progress over the past several years. During these trying times, creative measures must be taken. Your responsibility and the responsibility of the superintendent are the most critical in ensuring a balanced budget. Thank you for the balanced approach to the various reductions across the instructional areas and the efforts made to schedule personnel such that the staffing reductions are the least intrusive. While the reductions are not popular, it is important to note that the reductions are necessary. As a community member, I'm aware that our enrollment has dropped over time. No one wants those reductions. It is a shared responsibility. I appreciate your fiscal responsibility. What is the impact of a salary freeze? The city has taken a salary freeze to hold on to positions. I think the school district should think about creative solutions to address the needs of our students so our programs can be provided. Thank you for your time. Michael T. Logan, President, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity. My next one. And my next letter comes from Annie Farrell. She writes, "Hi, my name is Annie Farrell. I'm chapter president of Albany High Best Buddies. I saw your post and was very distraught seeing as my goal for the next upcoming school year was to kickstart the Best Buddies program with elementary, junior high, and talk to our community and individuals on how to make that happen. Friendships at an age of development that both the buddy and peer buddy can cherish for years and be sincere and more in depth since our program only starts in the high school. It's hard to make a connection that will last and won't be just superficial. I've been assigned chapter president as of about 2 months ago. Though I'm new to this leadership role, I'm really trying to expand and utilize the importance of what Best Buddies is about. Our special needs programs are vital, not only as an environment to learn, but as a safe place too. Our teachers work endlessly hard for these kids and care about them even more. Our program is so small as it is, we have teachers who aren't even trained as behavioral specialists to help out. If they cause our programs to become smaller, they're neglecting our students and their needs. It shouldn't even be a question. Their education is just as important as any other kids. I am sending your Facebook post and email to all students of my chapter. I'm ready to put up a fight." Oops. And my next one is from Adrian Pangery, and I apologize if I have that wrong. Sorry. Good evening, board members. I'm writing to express my concern over the 37% reduction in the behavioral specialist department. While we are a relatively new department, we are necessary within our schools, and I've heard little outcry over our reduction. In my 5 years, Albany schools have recently made it so we have almost one behavior specialist per building. This was a result in the state ripping apart our consistencies in plans and data collection. There was a need. We are a special team of people trained as social workers, school psychologists, and special education teachers. As an eclectic bunch, we are able to collaborate to look at the function of problematic behaviors, as well as discuss possible functions and interventions in order to assist our student population with learning, in addition to hopefully giving them access and success without special education programs. Additionally, we work to support our schools' Tier 1 supports to fully engage all students. We are PBIS teachers, trauma-informed school trainers, TCIS trainers, grade level liaisons, preventative strategies presenters, and trained in many Tier 1 and 2 best practices, such as mindful moments, check-in and check-out, and social academic intervention. We work closely with administrative staff, social workers, school psychologists, as well as families to provide our families with the unique support they might need. We respond to crises and meet with teachers regularly to provide support. Oops. Sorry, I lost my place. Excuse me 1 second, I'm sorry. Screen moved. A consult model would limit our ability to create comprehensive behavior plans that are in accordance with state education requirements. We would not be able to respond to crises. With the reduction in other areas, who would fill that gap? Apologize. It will not be good for any student's safety. We have all worked hard to celebrate student success during this challenging time and have been available to students, families, and staff to help cope with the additional stress that has been present. We have assisted with finding resources and communicating needs to our team. With the trauma that is being experienced for both staff and students during this time, including social isolation, inability to access education, familial stress around unemployment, and lack of resources for safe housing, food, supplies, etc., I am worried about this reduction and how it will look as families continue to feel the impact. I really apologize here. As a parent of an Albany school student with my, I apologize, my screen is just moving around here. Okay. As a parent of an Albany school student with my second child on the way to being a student, I worry about how these implications will play out in the classroom. My son will be entering soon and has special needs. Will Albany actually be able to support his needs with all the reductions? I highly doubt it with the current staffing cuts. Smaller school districts might be able to support us better, and that makes me sad because I truly love and am all in for Albany. I know we will not magically find $15 million, but I do want to know where it went honestly. This was not caused directly by COVID-19. What funds were mismanaged that led to this? Signed, a district employee and a district parent concerned for the future. Adrian Pangere. I believe I have one more. I'm sorry, I don't. I thank you. Let me sign off here. Thank you.
So one of the things that reading these comments does is make us even more empathetic to our students who are doing crisis schooling at home and learning how to use new technology under stress. There's nothing better and more fun than that. And I'm going to actually reread a letter. Those of you in the audience will be interested to know that the mute and unmute feature in Gmeet is Control-D, which also happens to be the copy down feature in Excel, which we're using to list all these comments. And as a result, we read a particular letter twice, assigning it to the wrong name. So with deep apologies to Ashley Mundini, whose name was read before, but the wrong letter was read with her name, I'm now going to read her proper letter. This is from Ashley Mundini. Dear board members, I'm writing to voice my concerns regarding the enormous employment cuts that have been made across Albany City School District. I currently am a behavior specialist at Sheridan Preparatory Academy. I was hired in October and I was laid off in May. There's been a 37% reduction in behavior specialist positions, and there's been limited discussion around the impact regarding this decision. This reduction in force will have a significant impact on the overall success of the students within Albany City School District. As a behavior specialist, I have many different duties. I not only work directly with students, but also with teachers, TAs, hall monitors, principals, psychologists, social workers, homeschool coordinators, and many others. I oversee the implementation of all Tier 2 and Tier 3 behavioral intervention plans within the MPSS model. I progress monitor and collect and analyze data associated with these interventions. I create behavioral support plans and intensive case management plans. I provide tier 2 support, such as social academic intervention groups, SAIG, and check-in, check-out. I develop functional behavior assessments and behavior intervention plans. I sit on the full MPSS team where I help to make decisions, academic and behavioral, regarding the whole child. I'm a PBIS coach, so I help to implement and facilitate tier 1 supports in the building. I work directly with academic coaches and provide coaching cycles to implement specific supports within the classrooms that have been identified with needing extra behavioral support. I am one of the few in the building certified in Therapeutic Crisis Intervention Support, TCIS, as well. I also have created and facilitated professional development for the whole staff to participate in regarding trauma and tier 1 supports in the classroom, and the duties of behavioral specialists continue. I am writing today to ask you, the Board of Education, which duty that the behavioral specialist holds are you willing to give up on account of our students? Who will be providing tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 support? Who will be turnkey training for trainings regarding trauma and behavior? Who will provide crisis intervention when a student is emotionally unregulated? These duties cannot fall on the shoulders of the already overworked social workers or school psychologists. They have a full agenda as well as behavior specialists regarding direct support with students. Adding our duties to their plates is not a solution. Moving towards a consult model will also not fix the issue of reduction in staff. A consult model will not address any of the duties that I have listed about that our schools rely on heavily in order for students to feel success. The consult model will just scratch the surface of meeting students' needs and addressing students' academic and social emotional development. Albany City School District staff were asked to complete a 6-hour trauma-informed school training in order to shift our mindset when looking at children who may have experienced trauma. Who will be providing the necessary interventions discussed in this training now that the behavior specialists have been pushed to the wayside? We are at a pivotal moment in our society where social emotional well-being will be just as important, if not more important, to address in schools in order for our students to be successful. These cuts to the behavior specialist department will have ripple effects felt across the Albany community. As the Board of Education, you are the community's voice, the community's advocate in ensuring that the children of the community grow up to be well-rounded, well-adjusted, contributing members of society. By cutting the behavior specialist department by 37%, you are altering an integral part of student success. Please consider these thoughts and thank you for listening. Sincerely, Ashley Mundini, LMSW, Behavior Specialist, Sheridan Prep. My next letter is from Kishan Balgobin. Dear board members, I've been following the proceedings around the budget for the 2020-2021 school year. I want to express my dissatisfaction with the way the board continues to mildly address the cuts to APSU members while preserving that of APSA. As it stands, I cannot support this budget on June 9th until we have serious conversations about the cuts, as mentioned earlier. Let me preface my remarks that I have witnessed the board staunchly push the district to justify cuts to the music department. I am not putting programs against programs. I am merely highlighting that the board is tiptoeing around the most critical public concern. This comment is not in regards to the high school's use of administrators. On Tuesday, I felt a case was made for the spread of administrators on that campus. However, the elementary and middle school leadership model is where my concern lies. I agree that administrators' role is essential, but it cannot substitute the influence of teaching assistants make daily. To answer Mr. El-Manyawi's comment on Tuesday, yes, the district is top-heavy. We acknowledge that the education model for the upcoming school year is changing, but we've not yet addressed how the district can re-envision the need of assistant principals. As mentioned in Dr. Wilson Turner's comments on Tuesday, administrators around the district are used to evaluate teachers. The reduction of force to teachers, predominantly untenured teachers, which require the 3 evaluations annually, means that the need for a top-heavy district model is superfluous. Teachers and staff are professionals. They do not need to be micromanaged. They need to be supported. Lastly, do not credit the hiring of APs to the increase of student success. It is the work of teachers and support staff that find different ways to teach our kids daily. I believe that the district needs to make some cuts to AP positions before my community support this budget. If we lose state aid, we will need to make more cuts, at which time you would have to revisit the top-heavy district model. Therefore, it can be done and it should be done. I urge the board to engage the district leaders in an authentic and earnest conversation around a reduction in force of administrators, one that is not procedural, but one that takes the concerns of the public seriously. Thank you for your work. Sincerely, Kishan Balgobin. From Lisa Smith. Dear Board of Education, I'm writing to tell you about the important job I hold at North Albany Middle School as a teaching assistant. I work in the OWL room, that stands for Other Work Location, and ISS, Internal Suspension. I provide students a quiet room where they can make up missed work or take makeup tests. I'm also going to graduate school to become an ELA teacher, so I am highly qualified there too. I give extra help to students who need it, so oftentimes teachers send their students to me for extra one-on-one help. I also provide the in-school suspension room at the same time. Students can't come to me for disciplinary reasons, and I get work from their teachers to complete for the time they are with me. Many of the students like coming to my room because it is very quiet space with extra help, and they get quite a bit of help and quite a bit of work done. I'm an essential part of the North Albany team, as I serve special ed as well as general ed, as well as AIC students. I have a great rapport with the students as well as the teachers. I am the only TA in this position here, and I usually have 3 to 5 students in my room at any given time, oftentimes more. I also serve as the lunch detention room, where I am often full. Please take these facts into consideration as you review the necessity of my position. And the last letter for tonight comes from a familiar name. Keith Reynolds writes to us, and once I get my screen in the right place, I will read his letter. Dear Board of Education members, I realize you are in an impossible position with the budget, and I thank you for what must be very frustrating work. Given that cuts need to be made, the big picture calls to mind a few problems with the current solutions. You have one department with a virtually 100% graduation rate. In elementary school, the music students score 20% higher on standardized tests. This is the department where you make the most cuts? Most Albany students cannot afford private music lessons. You are cutting these children off at the knees. And you cut a pile of music teachers and left the supervisor position? When you're talking about value to students, there's no sense cutting a teacher and keeping the supervisor. If there's any question in your mind, talk to some teachers. During a pandemic, you cut nurses and custodians? Really? It's difficult to balance all the needs in the district, but you are top heavy and financially one administration position is worth how many custodians? If we must have a less than a full complement, the people closest to the students' daily education should be the last to go. Sincerely, Keith Reynolds. That brings us to the end of public comment for tonight. As always, we will be reading future letters that come before 4 o'clock at the time of our next board meeting, which is, I believe, if I have the schedule right, unless there's something unexpected happens, which, of course, this year something unexpected happens almost every week. But in general, we would expect to see each other 2 weeks from tonight. Am I right? Board colleagues, right? 2 weeks. So any comments that are received in the next 2 weeks, we anticipate being able to read. We are mindful that we also have business to conduct. And so we ask you and plead with you to be succinct with your emails. We have never had a policy on this, and I know that Dr. Chatoor plans to bring it to the policy committee to try and create something comparable to the 3-minute limit that we have for in-person speakers. And we hope to have that in place rather shortly. But we ask you now as a courtesy to the rest of the community and to the staff who are working very hard and are here late every night of a board meeting, to try and keep your remarks succinct so that we can get your point across in as few words as possible. We love your letters, and we would be happy to receive 2 letters, a short one for reading out loud and a longer one just for us. That is absolutely fine. Whatever you feel that would be helpful to get your information to us, but also be courteous to the situation we have, which is the real actual calendar and clock time that passes while we do public comment. I did want to correct one very specific point. I rarely correct public comment, but Mr. Davis is a dear friend, and I know he will take it not the wrong way when I say that the election is not 6 weeks from today. In fact, your ballots will need to be returned by June 9th, which means if you plan to mail them, they will need to be in the mail probably in about a little bit less than 2 weeks. There will be hand delivery options as well, and we will talk about those later, but it's really more like a 2-week time frame than a 6-week time frame. And so I did want to make that correction lest there be any confusion on that point. So that brings us to the end of public comment. And now once I figure out what in the world I did with my agenda on all my tabs, I think that's going to bring us now to routine consent. And the routine consent agenda is a part of our meeting that we use to approve routine matters for the district. That's contracts and it's personnel matters, things that happen all of the time. Every board member reviews all of them very carefully, and we vote on them as one big group with no discussion so that we can use our meeting time more efficiently. However, if any board member has a concern or a question, they can set aside any routine consent item in order to require a separate discussion and a separate vote on that particular item. With that introduction, I now call for a motion to adopt the routine consent agenda. Ms. Wilson, seconded by Ms. Krejci. Are there any set-asides? Mr. Elmaniawi.
I just wanted to set aside the change orders, number 8, change orders for Albany High School, phase 1.
That's fine. So that's the change orders. And then I think, unless, I'm just double checking something on my screen because I know there was a late change and I want to make sure it's reflected on the resolution. Hang on a minute. It didn't appear to be reflected on the one I just saw, but I want to make sure. So yes, I'm going to set aside the resolution having to do with the vote canvas, which is number 9. So any other set-asides besides those two? Okay, all in favor of adopting routine consent agenda less the 2 items previously disclosed? All right, thank you very much. That is unanimous. Now can I get a motion to adopt the change orders as set aside by Mr. Elmaniawi, Ms. Wilson, seconded by Dr. Chatoor. Is there any discussion? Mr. Elmaniawi.
Thank you. I just wanted to highlight that this was a refund, a credit due to some just misaligned screws on some concrete panels on the face of phase 1, part of the building for the Albany High School. And I just wanted to mark it as something that is a positive that came, we heard about in facilities committee recently. So that is a credit that we're getting back. And I'm very happy to hear that we are.
I'll add on to that I'm always grateful for the excellent work of our construction management folks who are paying such close attention to detail on these things. And that's not the first credit on this project, nor will it be the last. And I really appreciate that. Any further discussion on that item? All in favor of adopting the credit for the change order? I think that is unanimous. Thank you very much. And now a motion to adopt the resolution as on the agenda. Ms. Smith, is there a second? Ms. Wilson? And then any discussion? I'm just going to say, I think that we had intended, because I know there had been some board discussion around making the meeting on the 10th, but I think it still says the 9th on this resolution, right? So I think we will verbally change this to read the 10th. For members of the community, we're going to get a full report on this from the superintendent, but the issue is that the board has to meet to receive the canvas having to do with the vote on the 9th. The vote will be held on the 9th, and we do not know whether we will be completed with counting all of the ballots by the end of that day. So we have elected to meet the following day, which is permitted by law, after originally having thought we would meet that same day, but we want to make sure that we give the staff as much time as possible to count. So that I'm going to, let's see, we have a motion, we have a second. I'm personally going to make an amendment, which the superintendent will be shocked because I know that you're not supposed to do that as a president, but I'm doing it anyway, to amend this to read the 10th instead of the 9th. That is my amendment motion. Do I have a second on that? Ms. Smith, all in favor of accepting the amendment? That is unanimous. And now the main motion is still on the floor. So all in favor of adopting the actual resolution in itself in its entirety? Is everyone in favor of that? I don't, yeah. All in favor, that is unanimous. Okay, thank you very much, you guys. That brings us to the end of the routine consent agenda and on to the first topic of discussion, which is the COVID update, operational update. I used to say this all the time in public when we met in person, and I seem to have gotten out of the habit, but I will say now, for those of you listening at home, the board rarely takes an action after this point in the meeting. We try and front load the action items on our agenda to the beginning so that everybody can be here for the actions if you need to attend to your family or whatever else you need to do. It does happen that something comes up and we take an agenda and action later in the meeting, but we do not intend to do that at this time. Mrs. Adams.
Good evening, Madam President and members of the board. And I would like to provide an update as to where we are both academically and operationally with regard to COVID-19 and the impacts. We know that during these challenging times, we still keep our vision, mission, and goals at the forefront. No matter how challenging it may be, we still keep that as our guiding principles. We know that we are still always summarizing the process and making sure that you're up to date with recent executive orders and any directions that come from state ed so that we can make sure that our board and our public is aware. We will extend today's conversation to talk a little bit more about the end of the year calendar, and that calendar, as we are moving forward, there may be some additional items that are added as we talk about the end of the school year. Just to reiterate, this was in my report earlier, but May 22nd, Review and Catch-Up Day, Memorial Day is a holiday. All missing work for students is due on May 29th. We talked about the timeline and schedule for the collection of the belongings. Principals are putting together these plans and they are reviewing them with their supervisors. And so information will be going to faculty and staff as well as to families in the upcoming weeks. And the last day of instruction is June 18th. We do now have some virtual events that we are happy to announce. Moving up ceremonies for our elementary and middle schools are taking shape. And so parents need to definitely pay attention to information coming from the schools with regard to the elementary and middle schools moving up ceremonies. And while it's not on the slide, we still need to make sure that parents are aware of different award ceremonies that are happening, reverse parades that are happening, and those kinds of things, because that will be forthcoming as well. Specifically to Albany High School, the virtual events that we are looking at, June 3rd is the virtual athletic banquet. So we're asking you to save the date. More detailed information with regard to times and how you can log on to those events will be forthcoming. June 13th will be the virtual prom. June 17th, our virtual awards night. And our virtual graduation is still on Sunday, June 28th. And the ceremony will take place roughly mid-morning. And then there will be a parade where graduation swag will be delivered to the students. We will adhere to social distancing guidelines. We will be wearing our PPE just to make sure that we are keeping everyone safe. And so more details with regard to that will be forthcoming. We do have upcoming town hall meetings that we have put on our schedule, and we would like to make sure that our public is aware. These meetings will be conducted virtually. The meeting on Thursday, May 29th, which is next week, is a virtual meeting, but that is our budget hearing meeting. I believe that time is 6:30, and so we'll make sure that we have corrected that time if that is incorrect. We also have Saturday, May 30th from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., Wednesday, June 3rd, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., and Saturday, June 6th, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And the protocols for the town hall meetings will be presented to our public in the upcoming days. Next, I believe I am turning the time over to Ms. Bowie, our board clerk, to discuss the vote process.
Good evening. I'm here to provide an update on the budget vote process. Once again, our vote for this year will be a 100 absentee ballot vote. The ballots will be mailed to all registered voters on May 26th. In order to receive a ballot by the mail, you need to register. The last day to register through the County Board of Elections or the DMV is tomorrow, May 22nd. If you're not able to register as of tomorrow, we are holding a personal registration day on May 26th at the district office from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. where you can register to vote, and that's at 1 Academy Park. The process to request a ballot if you do not receive one is you need to contact the district clerk. and I can verify your registration status with us. And if you're registered, a ballot can be mailed to you if the time allows, or we can arrange for you to pick up your ballot if you do not receive one. Every ballot will have a voter ID number on it on the return label to prevent any type of duplication of voting. And all ballots must be returned to the district clerk by 5 p.m. on June 9th. Next slide, please. As far as the voting process goes, the validation of ballots will be done by a barcode scanner. There will be an ID on the return envelope that it will be scanned to make a record of the vote that's received. Our ballots for this year, they are going to be non-scannable ballots. We were not able to obtain scannable ballots this year for our election, and those ballots will be tallied by election inspectors utilizing the same process that's followed for absentee ballots when in-person voting is permitted. Again, the scanning and counting of return ballots will be done by the election inspectors, who will tally all the votes that are received. And next slide. And are there any questions?
Board colleagues, does anybody have any questions for either Mrs. Adams or, actually, let's start with just questions for Ms. Bowie, since she's already got the floor. We'll do any questions having to do with this now, and then we can go back to any other questions. So any questions for Ms. Bowie on this? Ms. Mann?
Sorry, I'm having difficulty unmuting myself this evening. But I just wanted to confirm what I heard. The tally is going to be completed by whom?
Election inspectors.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a question? Ms. Green?
Just had a question about election inspectors. Who, how many, what cost? I assume we're paying for them. Are we hiring them now? Do they work for the Board of Elections? Just curious.
I will be providing a full update at our June 4th meeting with that additional information.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Bowie.
You're welcome.
Ms. Smith, is that a question or not a question?
Yes, it's kind of a little separate from related, but a little separate. Can wait until the other board members have gone.
Okay, Mr. El-Manyawi?
Hi, Tanya. Thank you. So I just wanted to confirm that the district will be mailing the ballots on the 26th, and it's not that the voters will get the ballots by the 26th. It's the district will be mailing them on the 26th.
That is correct. The mail drop date for ballots to be sent out to our voters is on May 26th.
So I'm just trying to figure out the timing, and I know it's all local mail, but just considering it might take 3 or 4 days to get to a household that'll put it at beginning of June, so people have roughly 3 or 4 days to fill it out before they need to mail it back, because it needs to be into the district by the 9th. So I just want to make everyone clear that you either need to mail it in by probably June 4th or June 5th at the very latest. I
just want to interrupt just to say I think we should be very careful about saying what date is a safe date, because we have no control over the post office whatsoever. So I do not want any board member to ever answer that question, really.
Right.
What date is safe? Because we honestly don't know. What we do know is that if we don't have it by 5 o'clock on Tuesday, we're not allowed to count it.
Okay. I am just concerned about the short amount of time that people do have to return it, but so to confirm, they can also drop it off to Academy Park before June 9th at 5 p.m.
Can I also add, though, Mr. El-Manyawi, that the short turnaround, as much as I understand your concern with the window being kind of slim, it just makes it so that it's not sitting on your table for an extended period. It's like more prompt. So it's like receive it and return it, so to speak. And that's what our messaging needs to be as citizens, and things of that nature.
And also, all of these things, like so many other things, exciting things this year, are not within our control, right? This is the way we actually adopted the budget a week in advance in order to try and get the drop date as early as possible. Some districts have yet to adopt their budget. Today is the last day for adopting your budget. I believe you can adopt it today and then submit it to state ed tomorrow and still be in compliance with the law. In which case, unless you have a very small district with a very small voting population, you're highly unlikely to get your ballots out in the mail by the 26th. So yes, it is a short time frame. Ms. Bowie, can you just continue with the details? Because that was my question about exactly when you can bring your ballot by hand, because I think that's something that really needs to be understood.
You can start, if you receive your ballot in the mail, you can start dropping your ballot and bring it to the district office at 1 Academy Park. I believe it's Friday, June 4th.
So Friday, Monday, and Tuesday, but not before that. You can't bring it. If you receive it on the 27th, because the mail is magical and you get it the next day, you can't just come down to Academy Park and drop it off on the 28th. There will not be someone there. Is that the current thinking?
It's the current thinking, but just to keep with an adherence of the social distancing, we established a day of June 4th on to drop off the ballots. And there will be 2 lock boxes for ballots to be dropped in.
And the boxes will be physically inside Academy Park. You'll have to, so that they're secure and they couldn't be tampered with because they were outside the building unsecured, right? They are inside.
They will be inside the building to be secured.
Madam President?
Yes, my dear, you're next.
Yes, just to follow up on Ms. Bowie's narrative there, and are there particular hours in which you can drop off the ballot? It's not an all-day affair. I just wanted to make sure I had the correct information.
Business hours are 9 to 5.
Okay.
I'm pretty concerned about voter confusion on this point. I really am very concerned that people are going to show up on June 1st and whatever, probably not on Saturday and Sunday, but during the weekdays. And I'm wondering if you've already intended to print that on the ballot somewhere, or in other ways make that really exceptionally clear. I do value, obviously, all of our staff members, and I don't want them exposed unnecessarily. I do understand the need for social distancing. If it could be arranged that we could add to those days that the hand-delivered ballots could be received, I think that would be preferable. But I am sensitive to the rationale behind that. And you don't need to answer that right now, but I do think we should be really concerned, because I think almost one of the worst things that could happen here is a voter tries to vote, goes to Academy Park, plans to bring their ballot in, either can't figure out how to enter the building because the building's very intimidating. I'm sure you'll have good signage, or knows that but can't get through the door for whatever reason because it's not the right day, and then doesn't put their vote in the mailbox, and then a voter has not voted. So I am really concerned about that.
We were going to look at it. We will definitely look at extending the days for the drop off.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate your taking that under consideration. I know, and again, much credit to you, Ms. Bowie, and everyone else working on this. It is really what all school districts are doing right now in New York State is pretty phenomenal. It's pretty phenomenal to develop an entirely new instructional methodology and an entirely new election methodology all within a couple months of each other with no additional staff. That's a pretty extraordinary thing that we just did. Anyone else with questions on the ballot? Hassan, you're still unmuted. Did you have a question, or you're just unmuted?
I did have a question. Now, and I'm sorry for kind of getting detailed about this, but I know Academy Park is not the most accessible building right now. So if we can do everything that we can to let people know that either directions or maybe have somebody able to come out and accept a ballot, because I know there those long that's a large staircase to get up there. I'm also concerned about parking. If there's going to be maybe a block of spaces that will be kind of a 15-minute parking limit so people come and go. I don't want people to be turned away. That's my main concern.
You do know there's a side entrance on the side street as well, so you don't necessarily have to broach the stairs. But I understand your point. But just FYI, like there is that other accessibility.
And there will need to be clear signage on that because the building, and for those listening at home, know that we have a plan. We have budgeted in our capital project that the voters approved 2 years ago, I think, to create an ADA compliant accessible entrance for this building because it is a beautiful, fabulous historic building. It is really quite an amazing building, but it is not in any way compliant with the current Americans with Disabilities Act. And it has been a long-term, actually, I think Ms. Krejci has been really one of the loudest voices for the need for us to turn this building into an accessible building. As all of our schools already are, we need our office building to be as well. But yes, it is definitely a concern. I agree. Tanya, did you want to add anything? We're good?
We are good for the moment.
All right. Anybody else for Tanya? Otherwise, we'll go back to Mrs. Adams. And Vicki, I think you had something you wanted to add. You said was not related to the vote.
Right, thank you. I know that this information just came out today where the governor indicated that there would be no summer school. And I know I immediately got a few calls and emails about, oh, well, hey, does that mean that summer camps won't take place and the community groups can't use the building and that kind of thing? And so I just wanted to ask if we knew the answer to that. I feel like I know, but I wanted to just hear it officially. And then the second part of that is the other calls I began to get were from youngsters who are hoping that they can work this summer still, and were finding it difficult to locate the working papers section on the website. And so I didn't know if that might be something we could make a bit more prominent. We have banners and things running across the front, and I just wondered if we might be able to at least, for a period of time, make that a little more highlighted so that youngsters could access the steps and the application. So, thank you.
So I will respond to as we receive the executive order and more details are moving forward with regard to summer instruction, we will absolutely provide that as we have in the past. We will always make sure that we provide that information. The governor did say that it would have to be distance learning for summer school, but there are also things that we have to look at the guidance from state ed as well as from the governor's office that extend, guidance as aligned with the executive order. We have not received that yet, but once we do, then we will make sure that we communicate that out to our families.
Absolutely.
With regard to the working papers, I will work with our communications and operations division so that we can make sure that that is prominently displayed. It has been included in our information as well as the information that went out to parents daily, but we can definitely find a space to highlight that because as summer is getting close, we want to make sure that our students have those opportunities.
Great, thank you, Superintendent, for those.
You're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else have a question or a comment for Mrs. Adams on the operational situation that we're in right now? I'll just add a great thank you to the Albany High and other principals that are working on these celebrations. I know the kids, it's a tough year to be a senior, and I know that they will be looking forward to a celebration, even if it's a different one than they were expecting. So that brings us now to the next topic, which is the lottery. So we're going to have a presentation on the lottery next. Mrs. Adams, or I don't know if you're going to
pass the begin, I'm so sorry. I was trying to mute. Thank you. I was trying to mute. It was on the formal topic. And I wanted to say that, thank you for coming up with dates and times for the budget town hall. And also highlight that and I wanted to mention this earlier, but I think you may even have done this, Anne, but I wanted to be clear that everyone who wrote a comment did receive a reply or their question answered, and we've been going in depth to do that.
Almost.
Mhm.
Almost. Every comment that we received through about 3 o'clock today, maybe 2 o'clock today, has gotten some kind of reply. About, I'm going to say 3/4 to 4/5 of all the comments have gotten an actual reply, meaning if you asked a question, I did my best to answer your question. Some of them are still in the form letter category in the thank you for your response. Here's our current situation. I'll get back to you. But I expect to be caught up, I hope, over the weekend. Recall that we've had 4 board meetings over the course of 2 weeks, which has slowed me down a bit. But having 2 weeks between board meetings should allow me to catch myself back up on the public comment. And so I beg the forgiveness of anyone who is still waiting for a comment. It is not that I do not plan to answer you. I will absolutely, because this board always responds to emails within a couple of days, always. I will also apologize to the 100 or several hundred people who used a tool to send us an identical email. Those folks will also be getting a response. It's a little more complicated because your email did not come through. Your email address was not attached to the email. So we only have your snail mail, I like to call it, your postal mail address. So and also it did not come through in a way that was easily retrieved from the email without administrative support. So we are getting them, and you will get a written response through the postal mail, because we do take those comments seriously, even though they were not individually crafted. Ms. Smith.
Yes, Madam President, I would like to just follow up on Ms. Wilson's message there, just to express a thank you very much for taking the lead in preparing those responses. And it's not that the board didn't have input, but you were doing the real heavy lift there, responding to everyone, and often times crafting it so that you were actually attending to the particular question while also providing an individual with some general information. So I wanted to say that and thank you. I also wanted to make it clear, and I think you said it before, not only, so this board tonight, or the meetings at which we've read the letters and comments, were not the first time that we've read them. We have individually gone through each of your letters multiple times. And I just wanted to express how important and meaningful your letters have been to us, and they have had an impact. And again, we're still making the best decisions I think that we can, but I did want to just express that every single letter that came in, we read, and we, labored over that, lost some sleep over some of those things. So I just wanted you to also know how much this board cares about what you have to say, whether you're a community, a parent, an employee, behavior specialist, TA, all of those comments matter. Thank you.
And we are going to continue to talk about the budget in a little while, so we'll have another opportunity on that. Dr. Wilson-Turner, I'm sorry, we preempted you a little bit there, but we're ready when you're ready.
So
Good
I'll
evening.
introduce Dr. Wilson-Turner, who will give us the report on pre-kindergarten and magnet school lottery. Thank you very much, Dr. Wilson-Turner.
Thank you, Mrs. Adams. Good evening, Board of Education, and our public who is watching. This evening is our annual lottery report that we give to provide an update on the progress with the pre-kindergarten and elementary magnet lottery, which includes our dual language program at DCS as well. The goal of the lottery for both pre-K, magnet, and dual language program is to ensure that we have an equal access to the seats that are available for pre-kindergarten and at our magnet schools in our dual language program. Our budget is roughly $38,500 to cover the cost of our external contractor, supplies and materials for the applications and advertisement, and the clerical staff that is aligned to the lottery program. The lottery application begins in early January with our magnet program application, and along with that goes information night so that we can provide families with an overview of what each program has to offer and assist them in making an informed decision. Each year that I come to this floor, I will thank the communications office for their work with our team to develop a very robust magnet application booklet that also provides detailed information for our families, and online information that allows parents to review the statistics of lottery awards or seats awarded so that they can make an informed decision about their selections. Our families are asked to prioritize their top 4 choices, to identify if they have a sibling who will be in the building next year so that they can take advantage of sibling preference, and to opt in if they have other siblings that need to move through the lottery process together. And we'll talk about that a little bit in a minute, because that piece is sometimes tricky. And their address is used to determine whether or not they obtain neighborhood preference. When students move through the lottery on the actual lottery day, first choice students who have siblings in that school for the next school year are assigned first to the available seats. Next, first choice students who have neighborhood preference are assigned, and then all other applicants are randomly assigned in the order in which they are selected based on their first, second, and third choices. Sibling linking comes into play when you have 2 children who are attempting to get into the same program who are siblings. Parents have to select this option on their application. And what that does is it allows them to have both children be awarded a seat if a seat is available for both of them. However, if for some reason there isn't a seat available for both of them, parents are choosing not to have their child move through the process separately. So traditionally, our lottery is held live at the Thomas O'Brien Academy for Science and Technology in their beautiful new auditorium. And we post the results so that parents can understand exactly where their child is going to be immediately after the lottery. During COVID-19 closure, like everyone else in our system, we had to make some adjustments. We did delay the lottery a little bit so that we could do the most thoughtful process that we could in conjunction with central registration and our Office of Data and Technology, where we were able to make the necessary adjustments. So I want to thank them as well for their efforts. We, in this time, had our contractor conduct the lottery remotely in partnership with our administrative assistant. From there, they then provided the results through email and through mailing through the U.S. postal mail so that families were able to receive that. We are only able to provide emails to families who provide their email on the application, which a solid majority of them do, so that they can get their results as quickly as possible. Students who are not awarded a seat, and I'll go through that data a little bit later in the presentation, fall into 2 main categories: waiting list for pre-kindergarten and dual language program, where students are placed on a list in the order in which their name is pulled after, and waiting pool, where all students go into a pool to wait together and are not in any particular order, so that for the next time they are pulled, any child has a chance of going into the next available seat. Once the lottery, the main lottery is concluded, usually in March, but this year in April, we began to conduct monthly lotteries for any remaining available seats. We have not determined at this point when we will start our monthly lotteries for remaining seats. We are still in the registration process right now due to our delay in the lottery process to begin with. We allow families 2 weeks to go through the registration process to accept their seat. During that time, the administrative assistant and our central registration team work diligently to review what seats have been registered for and to do robocalls and automated reminders for families to be sure to register. This year, the most significant change because of COVID closure was because we did our registration online with an option if families needed to put their registration paperwork in the mail. Any way that they could get any appropriate documents to us, we tried to work with them to accept and are still doing so. And so as a result of that, in addition to our automated calls, we have also done personal phone calls to individuals as we've noticed that they have gotten too close to the registration deadline and have not entered their information. And central registration and the lottery staff have worked diligently with families to get them through the process. This is data that I share every year, usually in the board update the week following the lottery, so that the board has the information available as to how seats were assigned. And it's always very similar in the sense that we always have more seats available than are awarded, not just because we have not as many applications, but because families don't always get the choice that they wanted and thus do not get accepted for a seat. It's not that there are no more seats available in some situations. So this year we had 720 seats available for over 500 in pre-kindergarten and just over 200 with elementary, magnet, and dual. At the conclusion of the lottery, we had 264 students who were still not assigned a seat, and so they're either going into a waiting pool or into the waiting, on the waiting list. Again, for the reasons that either their school that they selected was not available to them. This is another slide I share with the board every year just to show the demographic breakdown of who attends our magnet schools. It's always nice to do the comparison against what the district demographic looks like. Ash and Toast consistently are closest to reflecting that district demographic. Toast always tends to have a slightly higher Asian population. Montessori is less so reflective, and they tend to have a slightly higher white population. So our next steps, actually a step before this, is to continue supporting our families through the registration process. As I've said, the online process is new, and working with those families who do need to have an in-person or mail-in option to be sure that we can do that in a way that is safe and secure and most supportive of the family. We always debrief our lottery process. Actually, the central registration team have been meeting with Mr. Baker and myself once a week as we work through our online registration process, not only for lottery, but in general. And so we will continue to do that as necessary to make those adjustments. We began our conversation this fall, actually, about electronic application submission for this year's lottery. And we actually put it on pause for this year because at the same time, Ms. Wolf Cordova out of Mr. Baker's office was developing the online registration process, and we wanted to make sure that we could thoroughly understand how parents would interface with that before we integrate, because the electronic application could actually be integrated into the electronic registration process, really making it a very seamless process for parents. And so we are postponing it just for this year, but we'll look into it again this coming school year to see how we can easily integrate that and navigate some of the challenges that we've seen that parents have with navigating the online registration process. I, again, always like to publicly thank Mr. Baker and his team. Whatever we dream up, they build it in a way that supports the work that we truly try to do. And they sit with us and help us to click through and experience what families will experience as they navigate this, which I think has been a powerful part of the online registration process, and look forward to continued partnership as we work through those pieces. And that concludes my lottery report.
Board colleagues, I invite you to ask questions. Dr. Wilson Turner and I have worked on the lottery together for many years. Before I open the floor for questions, I just want to acknowledge the hard work of her and her team as they have brought this together, and many thanks to the communications team. The change in the level of communication around the pre-K lottery process is extraordinary. My oldest child was the first lottery year, right? The year after the standing in line went away and we went to a full lottery. And at that time, there was a form that you filled out and you preferenced your schools, and that was that. And now there are opportunities to learn more, and there's much more information, much more clearly explained in the pre-K lottery packet, and that is credit to Dr. Wilson Turner and the team of folks who work with her behind the scenes to make that happen. And I can tell you, part of it is that my kids are getting older, but part of it is that it's just getting better, that I get fewer and fewer calls at lottery time to say, I don't understand how this works. And so I really do appreciate that. Actually, we'll see if Mr. El-Minyawi has little kids, so maybe he's more in tune with the folks who have questions on pre-K. So with that introduction, who has a question or a comment for Dr. Wilson Turner? I'm having a hard time seeing hands right now. So Ms. Smith, I think you have.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Wilson Turner. This is always a pleasure and always gets exciting every year. And I too want to echo Ms. Savage's comments to the group. Now, it's funny also what one focuses on. I'm very interested and excited about the technology piece, the submission of the application electronically. Does this also include the submission of supporting documents? So it's not that you have to mail in something separate, but it's all one seamless process.
I'm so glad you asked that question, Ms. Smith, because yes, the online process as developed allows parents to do the entire process right now electronically. and to submit their documents electronically. However, I'm glad you asked it also, because I hope a lot of people are listening. That tends to be the most challenging piece for us right now in the registration process, is that parents will complete the application process, but not all the supporting documents will be there. And so what Central Registration and my team are doing is doing that direct follow-up with parents to see where the barrier is, and how we can help them get those documents submitted.
Thank you.
I think I read as well that it was done for the entering Albany High students did register online as well this year. We have a fair number of people who come from private to public at high school. And so that was another opportunity for online registration, which is another great progress made.
That is correct. And all registration is, and all new registration right now is scheduled to be done that way as well.
That's fantastic. Super fantastic. So much improved. Who else has a question for Dr. Wilson Turner about lottery? I don't see any hands. I guess I have to ask you Mr. Almanawi, you have unmuted. Do you have a question?
Thank you for your work, Dr. Wilson Turner. I was just hoping you could explain to me, so the total 264 vacant seats, can you just, I'm sorry, can you reiterate the information you gave briefly on that slide?
Yes, I can spend a little more time here. So if I take you after the available seats and total applications, then you could go to the number of students who were actually awarded a seat. Out of the 527 applicants, 456 were awarded a seat. And then the number of students not awarded a seat were 71. So when you're thinking, it's two different things. We have 71 students who applied who did not get the seat that they wanted, and thus will remain in a waiting pool for their first choice, right? And then you have 264 seats total that are still available for the public to apply for, but they sit at various programs. And so depending on what programs people want, they may or may not be seats that are in their neighborhood or in the particular school or program that they wanted, or they just haven't gotten through that process yet, but it allows us to conduct our monthly lotteries and still offer 145 pre-kindergarten seats for families and 119 seats at our various magnet programs in the dual language program.
Okay, so just to confirm, so those 71, if they don't get their first choice, there are still spots for them within that 264 vacant seats, and they're going to be kind of placed in somewhere, second or third or fourth choice, somewhere in there.
So with the magnet program, all students who apply for the magnet program also have a home school. So parents may choose to place their child into the magnet program, and if they don't get the seat of the program that they want, they can go back to their neighborhood school, but keep their name on the list for their first choice school. So those 31 magnet seats are families who did not get their first, second, third, or fourth choice. Will go to their home school, but will remain in the waiting pool for any magnet school that comes up available in their first, second, third choice seat. And we'll continue to contact them as we go through the monthly lottery process.
Got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
One other topic that we often talk about, and I know that this is a much larger conversation, which we've started down the road of a couple of times, and I don't want to have the big conversation about what to do about it or if to do about it. But I do want to ask you to confirm that this year, as in the past, that the demographics of the applications and the demographics of the assignments were comparable, because it's a constant question. We know Montessori has become whiter and whiter. Even in my time as a parent at Montessori, it's been extremely noticeable how the demographics have changed. Many, many people are aware that that school used to be located in a more accessible area of the city. A board many years ago decided to move Montessori Magnet to an area where it's very hard to access the school unless you have a car. At roughly the same time, we stopped providing pre-K busing, which is extraordinarily expensive. This board has researched that several times. And not only do you need to provide car seats for 3-year-olds who are entering pre-K, but I learned this year, this was a new twist, you can't put a child in front of or behind a car seat because of the transportation law, so you have to run bigger, more buses. Do you remember that? That's what Denise told us that. So it not only increases the cost of the transportation, but it reduces the number of kids on a bus. So it just makes it alarmingly expensive. Anyway, all of that boiled up together with potentially some other things that we don't understand has resulted in Montessori becoming wetter and wetter. But one of the things I think we can safely say is that the lottery is not causing the action of the lottery computer is not causing that. The demographics of the people applying are matching the demographics of the people who are going into the various schools.
That is 100% correct. And I always provide the board with the full report that shows the application statistics versus the assignment statistics, so that you can see that for both pre-kindergarten programs and the magnet and dual language programs.
Okay, Dr. Storm.
So once again, great job on where we are today in terms of transforming everything to an online portal. So no one has to stand in line anymore. And just as a follow-up on this, at some point we are still doing the grade configuration, right? That's a whole different thing that's going to come down the pipeline. And these are some of the things that we could try to address. I don't know how, but we will definitely try our best.
Yeah, I know I've been in consultation with the superintendent and the cabinet level staff that we are still on target with our original E+. Remember the E+ conversation to do a demographic report, which we will have in hand by early fall, so that we can evaluate our demographics up and down throughout the system in order to determine primarily whether we need 3 middle schools or 4 middle schools. At this time, I'm going to guess we're at the 3 middle school level because we know we're seeing declining enrollment at the elementary level. But it's Albany. Anything can happen. I am not going to predict. It is very difficult to predict enrollment, but we do our best. Anyone else with a question, at least somewhat tangentially related to the lottery program? If not, thank you very much for your hard work and thank your team. And we look forward to seeing the magnets continue to thrive in Albany.
Thank you.
And now the last major topic of the night, which has also been the major topic of the last 2 weeks, the 2021 budget.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board again. This presentation will be a joint presentation from Ms. Roaring and myself. And we will always start with our vision, mission, and goals, making sure that even during these times, we are still making sure that we are working endlessly to provide equitable opportunities for our students and robust educational programs, knowing that we have to realign methodologies and look at how do we make the best of what we have in terms of doing the best for our students. And so I will turn the time over to, the purpose of this meeting is to also continue to update the board and the community regarding the budget impacts. And at this time, I will turn it over to Ms. Roaring.
Good evening, Board of Education. This is one of the adjustments that was made in the 2020-21 state budget. There will be 3 measurement periods, which will allow the Division of Budget to take a look at the state's revenues in comparison to their expenditures at those points in time, and make adjustments as needed to realign that and assist them in having a balanced budget as they go through the year. We are anticipating, based on feedback from the Division of Budget yesterday, that we are looking at potentially across the state, $8.2 billion reduction absent some federal support. So that will be very critical for a number of municipalities and school districts across the state this year. Some additional changes in the state budget were around portions that the state pays for certain programming versus portions that we pay. They did repeal the paid time to vote piece, which has allowed us to make some calendar adjustments for our students. And looking at the charter school tuition, they did do a formula this year that allowed for a decrease in that rate. However, with expansions in 2 of our schools, Green Tech and KIPP, we are anticipating increased enrollment, which will be largely offset by that decrease in tuition rate. We look at the 2021 board adopted budget, which was adopted a week ago. This shows in the far right-hand column the adjustments that were made in each of these categories we've been tracking throughout the budget development process. So the first column is what the adopted budget was for the 1920 year. The second column reflects those totals for each of the categories for the 2021 year. And then again, that right-hand column shows those variances. This looks at our 2021 revenue by category, looking at the property tax levy, other local sources of revenue that we have, interest and reimbursements, state aid, as we see about $1 million increase, and then our other sources that took us to a $1.2 million increase for next year.
So our overview moving forward for the 2021 school year, we're having those discussions looking at the importance of continuing to note that we are focused on how we are making our difficult decisions in the best interest of our students and still remain fiscally responsible. These are challenging times, and we know that we have to work collaboratively and with our means and within our means to support our instructional programs and look at creative ways to adjust the delivery of our programs and services. We are immersed in this work and the progress that we have made in order to meet the various needs of our students. We've really tried to be strategic in our staffing decisions as our enrollment has decreased by almost 475 students, which is approximately 5% since the 2016-17 school year. Our proposed staffing adjustments would allow our staffing levels to align with that 2016-2017 school year, even though we have fewer students projected for the 2020-21 school year. I do want to note that as we have made revisions along the way, looking at student achievement, our social and emotional well-being of our students, we have made adjustments with regard to our allocations and our program services. Each day we're still reviewing things that can be done because we know that even though there is a top dollar amount, that flexibility does exist within our programming so that we can see what are some of those things that we may be able to fund a little differently. Our decisions have been grounded in trying to maintain the level of programming and services required to address the supports for our diverse students and community. Our budget proposal looks to adjust our methodologies to enhance student achievement and the social and emotional well-being of our students and the delivery of quality instruction so that we can still remain fiscally responsible. And so these are the points that I'm going to address as we talk about what might next year look like. And also with regard to our proposed budget, where do we stand? The proposed budget is less than 0.5% more than the budget for the current school year. And so we are looking at that, as Ms. Roaring said, at 0.47%. On an average over the past few years, we have been able to stay within our budget, our tax levy cap. And this year we are at 1.96%, which does not exceed our tax cap. While working through these uncertain times, we are committed to maintaining several programs throughout the next year. And I'd like to take a moment to identify some of those programs. Maintaining full day pre-K for about 1,000 students. Our 3- and 4-year-old students, our youngest learners, including the reduction of the 2 off-site classrooms that we mentioned earlier. We're maintaining our 3 magnet elementary schools, our dual language program at Delaware Community School. Due to the professional development of our instructional supervisors and the work that they have been able to do alongside our teachers and support staff, we've been able to embed our STEM and STEAM focused initiatives at all levels so that even during this online platform, we can actualize some of the project-based learning opportunities for our students. We will continue to actualize equity in our technology innovation efforts as we work endlessly to close the digital divide through the strategic access of our Chromebooks and also hotspots. And we have been able to work with different companies to receive donations for our more than 8,000 students. We are maintaining music instruction K-12 through general music, recorder, band, chorus, orchestra. However, instrumental music may be adjusted at the beginning of the year to start at the 4th grade level. We are continuing to serve 57 athletic teams, including more than 1,100 students in grades 7-12, even though with our 9th graders being able to participate at the junior varsity level, we would be merging that freshman program into the JV program. One of the things that we are very proud of that we are going to be able to continue with is maintaining our community schools model and the initiatives at 7 of our schools. The community schools model provides academic, health, and social services to students and families before, during, and after school in a typical setting. What that's going to look like in the fall, there will be some uncertainties with regard to that. And while we will continue to look at the delivery of a blended model with our students, we will continue to work creatively within that community schools model to support our students and our families. We are looking at scheduling options to maintain our advanced placement courses, international baccalaureate, and university at the high school courses in order to look at co-seating our students, which we have done in the past. We are really looking at some creative scheduling. At our Career and Technical Education Center, we're able to maintain those pathways for our students that are in our CTE program, which we know is very valuable to them, as well as to us, because our students will finish with a certificate in a career, which really helps us with that college and career readiness aspect of our curriculum. We have ensured that our students with disabilities and our English language learners have the accommodations needed to modify assignments and the technological support through teleservices, telemedicine, and translators to better support their progress in both a traditional setting and an online platform. It really does take some getting used to, and we are working through it. But we still know that more research-based best practices will need to continue so that we can continue to enhance the delivery of instruction for our vulnerable populations. While the model may change, we are looking to continue our PBS models throughout our student support services. We continue to support the growth and development of our faculty and staff through culturally relevant teaching and learning practices, trauma-informed care, and restorative practices. The work of our teachers and staff is so very important to our students. And this is the work that we see. In addition to that work, there is work that's done behind the scenes by administrators and support personnel, such as you've heard from tonight, our behavioral specialists, social workers, and school psychologists are all a part of that work. This work is very important. While it may not be on the forefront, it is still very important because the differentiated wraparound services and support provided to our teachers and staff work in concert to support that delivery of instruction. This comprehensive support has a direct impact on student achievement by establishing a foundation and providing those sensory breaks, the redirection, and coping strategies to promote a culture of growth and progress as seen through the increased performance of our students. We know that we have continued work to do on behalf of our students and families. We are committed to making the necessary adjustments for their success. The 2021 school year has so many unknowns. The guidelines regarding reopening, social distancing, blended classrooms, flipped classrooms, online learning, in-person gatherings, cleaning, sanitization, student attendance, transportation, athletics, and extracurricular activities and clubs will look differently for us as we approach the new year. But there is one aspect which is consistent, and that aspect is our students. Addressing the diverse needs of all of our students will be at the forefront of our thoughts and processes while we balance accomplishing these goals and ensuring that we are fiscally responsible. And finally, providing the social and emotional support of our students and families will not be lost in a virtual environment because we know how important that is for their growth and development. This is the overview of the budget and what we are looking at to maintain during that 21-22 2021 school year. At this time, we can move to the next slide, and we will discuss the contingent budget.
Should the voters not approve the proposed budget on June 9th, the board would most likely be looking at a contingent budget for the 2021 school year. That would result in additional budget reductions of $2.3 million. Those expenses absolutely necessary to operate and maintain our schools would be the expenses we would be allowed to continue. Equipment purchases would be limited to instructional hardware. Outside building use would not be possible at any expense to the taxpayers. So any outside organization looking to use our facilities would need to pay in full, in advance, any costs associated with the use of our facilities. And then we'd also be looking at any supplies that we purchase specific to individual students. We look at our budget calendar for the remainder of the process. Budget is to be made available to the public. Our property tax report card was filed with SED on May 15th, the day after the vote. Public hearing is scheduled for May 28th. Our newsletter is also going out next week. And our vote day by absentee ballot will occur on June 9th, and those ballots are due no later than 5 p.m.
So there's a slide with a big question mark on it, so that means we get to do questions. I did want to add, while it's not on the calendar yet, I don't even think I've had a chance to talk to all of my board colleagues about this yet, that I know that from conversations with the superintendent, that Mr. Lesko in the communications department is trying to put together a couple of virtual town halls to happen relatively quickly. As stated by Mr. Hassan Al-Amanyawi, we have very few days once you receive your ballot for you to make a decision. So we're trying to get ahead of that. Those dates are not ready to be released, right? We still have to work out the details, who will definitely be the moderator and what the structure of those will be, but I know that we're working on them. Mrs. Adams, did you want to add to that? I see, oh no, you were just, did you want to add to that? You're just a big K with a mute and an unmute button. Tabitha,
No,
were they
I
ready?
am fine. We are ready for questions.
Okay. Anyone have a particular question on the budget or comment, Ms. Wilson?
I believe in the COVID update, we showed the 4 dates.
Oh, the dates were on there. Okay, I'm sorry. I got distracted. Okay, so actually that would probably be a good thing at some point to bring back up, Mr. Baker, if you can find those for us. There was a lot going on for me technologically during that piece. Sorry. But we do want to make sure people know that that will be a very different kind of thing than a board meeting, right? This is one of the things that I think is really tricky is that board meetings are actually meetings. Like people, we're actually having these conversations real live. There's not like a meeting where we decide stuff and then we come to this meeting and talk about it. Like this is it. This is what there is. And so this has to be our time to talk with each other to make these important decisions. But those town halls, we are going to structure them in a way that's more fluid, that people can get their specific questions answered. And we're going to try and figure out a way to do it so that we make sure that a lot of different questions get answered. So we're still working out those details, but we will be pulling that together. Back to other people's questions. Who's got something for the superintendent on any portion of the budget piece?
Yes, Superintendent Adams, first, I just want to commend you and Cabinet and including Ms. Roaring, Communications Department, our assistant superintendents, our Director of Curriculum Instruction, our grants person, Mr. Baker, everyone for continuing to go back and look at where we can be flexible in our budget, but also continuing to keep in mind those 4 points that you just showed around student achievement, emotional well-being, all of those things. I am just thrilled that you're able to keep that vision and mission in place, students at the center, but also commit to making adjustments wherever possible and however possible that we can. And I think tonight you heard the letters that we received from people, and I really hope that folks don't walk away thinking that the district or the board do not care about behavior specialists, or don't care about TAs, or don't care about teachers, or don't care about administrators. We care deeply about everyone's work. We know how important everyone's work is to taking care of and supporting our youngsters. This is a terrible, terrible situation that we're in, and we're going to do the best we can. So I really appreciate the flexibility, though, within this budget bottom line that we've set to go out to voters, that you're still continuing to look and to see where we can make a difference. I did have a question, and I just feel like this was a theme tonight as well. There was mention by several people of freezes, and I wondered if you could speak to, and I want to just make sure, I want you, if you could speak to the kinds of conversations that we have had, or whether we've actually had those conversations with all three bargaining units about the freeze, and whether or not there is still potential for that to happen. And as you can see, if we happen to get into a contingency budget, we're going to then also have to come back and make more substantial cuts. And that would just be even more horrible and tragic for our youngsters in particular. So
I'm going to start in answering this question, and Ms. Roaring, if I miss anything, would you please feel free to chime in. Conversations have been held with the bargaining units, and one of the things that we were seeking would be the retirement incentives instead of a salary freeze. And even after reviewing these numbers and looking at the breakage options in terms of based on what the retirement incentive might be, it still would not be, the scope of a package would still not be a one-to-one backfilling of our positions. Previously in our board presentations, I would reflect back to, and Mr. Baker, you don't have to find this report, but on the 23rd, we did share out the information as to what that may look like based on some dollar amounts. And so looking at, and again, that would not necessarily be one-to-one positions, because of course, it depends on which position is being eliminated, and then which position is being brought back, if you will. But one of the things that we shared at that time with regard to a salary freeze with the bargaining units would be that roughly 15 positions could be restored with APSU, approximately 32 positions would be restored for ABSTA, and ABSA, we would be looking at about 3 positions. And so that information has been shared, but we did pursue looking at retirement incentives. We are still in that process and having those conversations. And what we're looking at is a large number. And so there may be a combination of things that need to be done in order to look at various positions being restored.
And Superintendent, if I might just follow up, thank you. And I do recall those slides, and I think it is here now, but it did strike me, just going back and reflecting, that we potentially could have saved $3.4 million with agreement on a freeze, right? I don't know if the retirements, as you're pointing out, would get us anywhere close to that amount. It would get us perhaps some savings, but not anywhere close, is in all likelihood, is what I'm, sort of surmising from the data that we have before us. Is that correct?
That would be correct. It would not be a one-to-one backfill with restoring positions.
I mean, I think that one-to-one backfill language is something that I'm not really familiar with that, but I think what I'm understanding Ms. Smith to say is that when you think about the overall budget, which is really what we have to think about most importantly as the representatives of the community, the parents and the other taxpayers who live in this community, what is the overall budget? And while we would be very, very happy to find a way to offer a retirement incentive if we can find one that is fiscally sound for the district, even if we could find one, based on my understanding of how the numbers are going to play out, it's highly unlikely that would come, like, it's not even in the same scale. It's not the salary freeze. And I know that the unions have to make that decision. Absolutely. It's none of our business how they have to do their own work and decide whether to vote on that and decide how to do that. We can only ask, which we have done. and try and negotiate, which is my understanding that we have done, and that is on them to do the next step. But the retirement incentives, well, an appealing thing because appealing in some ways, because it does mean that more people, more young teachers would not have to be reduced in force, right? Because whenever there's a tenure area match, if a math teacher retires and a math teacher doesn't have to be laid off, that's a good thing, right? But if we do all of that, it doesn't appear to me that the numbers are going to net a meaningful amount of money to adjust the budget in a way that would allow us to return program or return positions. We can just change the people that are in those positions, but not actually add to the positions in any substantial way. That's my best understanding of the way this is going to go down.
And your understanding is correct. President Savage, you were muted.
Yeah, no, that was mostly me saying, because one of the things about the community comment tonight that I really reflected on and that really spoke to me was about the call for unity and the call for us to really be all in together. I know this is really hard. It's hard for everyone. It's particularly hard for the people who are losing their jobs and their livelihood. And none of these decisions were easy. And people can disagree and they can think that poor choices were made. But I really hope that when push comes to shove, we're going to find ways to disagree with each other that still center the children, that still center the need for us to work together every day over the next 180 days or however many days the school year is next year, because that's also turning out to be unpredictable this year, that we have to work together. And so we need to speak of each other with respect of our different roles. Each of us plays an important role. And one of the things I've been the proudest of the last couple of years is the way we are respecting all of the players in our school district, and that they each do play an important part. And so I hope that we can all find language that is not antagonistic towards others who we work with. So that is what I want to reflect on.
Yeah, and Ms. Savage, I think that was perfectly said from my point of view, and really what I was attempting to get at, that theme of we're all in this together, we all play a part, and also if that goes to that we all might have to take a bite of this. We might all feel the impact of this together, and rather than any one group feeling it more than another. So I just agree with what you just said, and I hope, still hope that is the intention of everyone, all of us, so thank you.
Anybody else have a comment or a question? I do have some particular questions I want to get to as well. Tabitha, you have yourself unmuted. Do you have something to add?
Yes, and thank you all for the presentation, and thank you. As Vicki indicated when she extended her thanks and her compliments earlier, I feel the same way, and I feel like she summarized that excellent. And then you also, my overall question before I get into it, I do want to alert people back to the fact that we will have town halls and we will have something synthesized for them to understand, because I realized that we did have a compressed time frame, and we didn't mean it in a nefarious way. We were doing it to basically dovetail the fact that there was another tsunami potentially that could hit us, and that could be a look back period where we'd be forced to make more significant cuts and adjustments. Aside from that, I wanted to also ask that if we could pull up the presentation, that's our actual budget presentation, and go to slide 6. More likely the May 14th meeting, yes. I'm sorry, I'm just making sure they both match, because I do know that, again, we're talking about sticker shock with the public and the compressed time frame, and people not really knowing or understanding where we came into the differences that we had. I think mine shows the 15th, it's slide 6, it shows the $15 million difference.
this is the slide you have in mind, Tabitha?
Thank you. Yeah, so ultimately, it's like along throughout the process, and although it's been compressed, we've been demonstrating to people that we had an adopted budget for 2019-20 and a rollover budget. And, basically it's spelled out for individuals where the differences lied. And, basically back to that point of, people being concerned about suddenly it being 15 million, I think it just shows here where the emphasis is for the difference. And, we've done our efforts in making adjustments and taking the recommendations from the superintendent. And although we may understand, we're working to have the public understand where the decisions were made. And that's why we're going to have those virtual town halls. And that's why we've had extensive, robust public comment. And that's why we're able to get back to everyone individually about where we are right now and where we're going. So that's more so a comment than a question. But I did want to basically highlight that we are working actively on this for several hours, almost daily as a unit, but also throughout these meetings, and also trying to dispel misunderstandings, but as much as bring people along where we're going and how we got here.
If you don't mind, Mrs. Adams, I just want to comment on the conversation about the compressed opportunity for public comment and the whole compressed budget process. It's totally understandable why people are concerned about that. It's been the most astonishing year in every possible way imaginable. And so when I've spent some time reflecting on exactly how did we get to that point and what happened. And it's really interesting when you look at it, you actually have to break it apart into two passes. Two things happened. First of all, the draft budget was later than it usually is, quite a bit later than it usually is. Plus, we voted a little bit earlier than we had to, right? So those two things together brought us into this very compressed time frame. And so the first one, why did the budget come out late? People who come late to this process may not have been following the fact that in January, the governor released an executive budget with a certain amount of state aid for us. And our state aid, which I have now forgotten because it became an irrelevant number very quickly, but it was close to $4 million. And so we thought we had $4 million of state aid for a little while. Then it became COVID-19 time. And suddenly our $4 million of state aid possibly was going to go $4 million of extra state aid. There's quite a bit more than $4 million. That's the increment since last year. There was a period we thought that was going to go to literally zero and exactly what we had last year. And then a little bit later, we got a little bit more because they recalculated some of the reimbursables. And that was all happening. And then there was the announcement of what Ms. Roaring has mentioned on the first slide, that we're expecting to get yet another decrease in state aid possibly on April 30th. So every single school district in the entire state of New York was faced with this problem. How do you construct a budget when the revenue that supports that budget, which is in our case 45% of our revenue, is not known? It could be a little less, it could be a little more, it could be a lot less, you just don't know. And we were expecting to get that answer in the beginning of May. The governor announced that he was going to do this April 1st, April 30th look back months ago. And we thought we would get that answer, and it never came. So every district had to make a different decision. And I know that, does anybody know if Watervliet ever did actually adopt their budget? Last I heard, they had not even presented it. They were going to present it on Tuesday. I don't know if that actually happened. But in any case, our district did the best they could to come up with a point in time to create a budget. So that's why we got the budget so much later than we're used to. And then we were faced with this complex series of events that I will try to reduce to just a couple of words, where we could have waited until tonight. Tonight was the last legal day for us to adopt the budget, but instead we did it last Thursday. And we did it really intentionally. And when you listen to last Thursday's board meeting, you'll hear this very, very long conversation. But ultimately, it was because if the governor had produced his reduction in state aid, we would have had to bake that into a budget. And that could have been a lot of money and a lot of jobs that we could not replace with federal money if by some magical situation, the federal money ever appears. Because in the state of New York, once you establish your budget, you cannot spend more than that, even if you get money from some outside source. So we decided as a board, knowing full well and very much understanding that our community was going to be quite upset that they didn't get more opportunity to provide comment, that was the most important thing we had to do, is protect the ability to serve the students by having that extra money. And we know it made people mad. They wanted to have more input. Understood. We thought it was more important to protect that money than it was to allow for an extra couple of days of input. And we all struggled with that decision. So I'm sorry for the soliloquy here, but I wanted to really have that presented again, because I think it is, when you come into a process in the middle and you don't understand all of the parts and pieces of it, it's easy to think they just didn't want to provide enough time. But it's very, very complicated, and every step was done with good intent and good reasons. And this is how we ended up here. And Dr. Chittoor, you have unmuted, and I will end my soliloquy.
I mean, this has been a perfect storm. You know, every possible thing that we wouldn't anticipate to go wrong has happened, and we don't have the resources, we don't have the time, but yet you have to make a decision. And I want to reiterate that the board felt more pressured in this situation than any other decision we have made, trying to make that decision to adopt a budget that night last week. Because unless we did that, the numbers would go smaller. So it doesn't matter how the money came in, whether the federal government decided, oh, you know, we should support New York, and they gave us money, or if all the bargaining units decided we are going to do a salary freeze, or we are not going to do a cost of living increase, whatever it may be, we couldn't use that money this year if that happened, right? And because we already would have adopted a smaller number, and that means we couldn't fill in rehire any of the people who are being riffed or let go or what have you. So it's a very tough decision. It's a very tough choice to be making, but at the end of the day, we have to make sure that the students are served. And this has been a really tough budget.
Ms. Krejci, I think you had a comment. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Dr. Chittoor, were you done?
And one more thing to follow amongst all this, we haven't even talked about raise the age, right? And its implications to the budget that could happen.
I'm going to give another soliloquy, but I'm going to stop myself before I do. Ellen, go ahead.
I just wanted to comment, you know, over the past few years, we've really come a long way in investing in our students and investing in our staff. If you look at where we are compared to other schools locally, we really do have one of the most generous teacher salaries in the area. We have really solid benefits, and it's important to us, I think, as a district, to pay people in all negotiating units a living wage. We've been bringing everyone up to $15 an hour as much as possible, paying excellent health benefits, making sure people have cost of living raises. We've really been investing in our staff, and we've also really been expanding our staff to serve our students better. And one of the ways we've been able to do that is by leveraging our lobbying and our government connections to get a larger and larger percentage of our funding from state aid, so that we haven't had to go to the maximum tax levy really most years. We've been able to do that. That's what we value. We value our staff. We've invested in the NYU Steinhardt program to create teachers from within. We've paid our teachers well. We've given them excellent benefits. And yet, people ask about that $15 million. It's not a deficit. My understanding is we cannot run a deficit. We cannot spend more money in any given year than we take in. The reason that $15 million is there in large part because we pay people well, and the cost of these increases and the cost of increased health insurance and increased Social Security go up every year. That's something that when times get hard, we really have to cut back. That's simply built into when you have generous salary and benefits. And I want to also say that we don't have the highest salary and benefits. If you look at the top, if you look at our cabinet and our superintendents, we do not have the highest salaries in the area for those people. We really have been trying to be equitable, but when times are bad, we can't go on the way we've been. That's simply built into the system. It's not there. We've got to find a way, but we can't go forward unless everyone's willing to do their part. And we're just hoping both that district employees and district residents can come forward and work together and do what we can to keep things together for our kids. I'm a little incoherent because I'm really feeling really passionate about it. This has been the hardest work. I think it's been the hardest work we've done in the 5 years I've been on the board, and it's all the more difficult doing it remotely. But we've all got to, as we are separate, we've all got to come together and do what we can to mitigate this. We've got to come together for our kids now.
Ms. Wilson, did I see your hand up? It's hard to follow that because it was a very well constructed and thoughtful thing to say, Ellen, and I appreciate it. Ms. Wilson, when you're ready.
Thank you. And I want to say that absolutely +1 to what everyone said so far, especially Ellen recently, and also you, Anne. My other sort of, and I think you did a perfect synopsis of how we got here for people to understand. And I don't know if people missed this. And I think what people can't appreciate perhaps is behind the scenes via email, our meetings internally, and ongoing, that we did grapple and wrestle with this. I think what people can't appreciate is that we're not like yelling and shouting at each other, but we're doing it in the very most reserved, cordial manner, basically at each other and, things of that nature amongst ourselves. But then even more so when we press for, information, we're doing it in a very polite manner. But what we did basically wrestle with last Thursday, losing track because we met so often, but what we wrestled with last Thursday was, we're settling on a number. We arrived at a total that we felt was the maximum that we could preserve, basically, as much as possible, to remain student focused and keep the students first. So I think when people heard certain things being cut or certain things being reduced, without it being like a global view, not understanding that, no, we didn't shut down the entire music department. We said we were proposed certain things and things of that nature. So really, this is still fluid. And as you can see, they came back and made additional adjustments. Perhaps the public comment didn't coincide with understanding that we were still making adjustments, but we were making and still are making adjustments and still are trying to preserve as much as possible and maintain the high quality of level of service and experience for everyone possible. But we had to do that in the context of a compressed deadline and a looming sort of additional deeper cuts that we wouldn't be able to retrieve or modify later. So I just wanted to add that to your synopsis so people appreciate that we weren't voting for a budget that comprised of cuts. We were voting for a budget that was a total.
Actually, that reminded me that I wanted to comment. There was a particular public comment letter that I needed to respond to, or at least acknowledge in the public comment. Someone commented on what they had calculated as a high dollar per student for Albany, and they had, I believe, their math was to take the overall budget and divide by the K-12 enrollment, which seems like a natural, normal thing to do, right? That seems like normal, right? You've got this money, you're educating your K-12 students, and then you divide. There are a couple complications there. I'm not going to go into all of them. I've spent much of the last 6 years building a spreadsheet so I could really understand this, because it is non-trivial. But the biggest single thing to understand that makes Albany different and unique than every other school district and does create an expense for us is that we are also providing a secondary set of schools in Albany, which are charter schools. And I know many families are very happy with their charter schools, and I am happy for them that they have found a good fit for their child, and that is wonderful. However, the way the funding stream works, we send $37 million directly off the top of the budget, directly to the charter schools. They goes with students, right? The students are there too. So in order to do a proper calculation of our cost per student, you need to add back in the charter students and the other non-public students that we subsidize. And the state does do that as part of their property tax report card. And that's why I think, and this is still on my to-do list to investigate this with certainty, the enrollment number on the property tax report card is always so much higher than our actual enrollment. That also does not include our almost 1,000 3K and pre-K students who we value so much the work that we're doing there. We know it makes a difference to have high quality 3-year-old and 4-year-old students in our academic program, which is a play-based program. Melissa Hasty's probably listening out there and thinking, oh my gosh, she said it was an academic program. It is a play-based program and the kids get to play. But they do also learn, and they practice rhyming, and they learn the basic concepts of sharing and taking turns and playing games that ultimately become speech and conversation and all of those things. So all of those expenses and all of those students need to be added up, but it is truly true that we could more efficiently educate our students if we did not have the large number of charter schools that we have here in Albany. I believe, and I have not checked recently, but I believe we are 4th in the state. Buffalo, Syracuse, maybe Utica, Troy is up there, but we are very, very high in the number of students who go to charters. And that's an expensive way to educate students. And again, it's not a disrespect meant to the families that choose that. I understand that they've found a fit for their child, and I have the utmost respect for them if that works, but it has a real financial impact on this district. So between the way you do the calculation and the actual fact that we are subsidizing as taxpayers in this district almost 2 complete school systems, it is a real problem that I think needs to be acknowledged when we do comparisons. I think that was the main points I wanted to make on that. Now, Dr. Chittor, I see you unmuting. Mr. Almanyawi also had a question. He hasn't had a chance to speak recently. Can you yield to him? Okay, Mr. Almanyawi.
Thanks, Dr. Chittor. I simply wanted to make a note to the folks listening in our public and the citizens that are going to vote on this budget that a budget vote not in favor of this budget would bring us to a contingency budget, which would then knock off another $2.3 million from the budget. So if the budget does not pass, we will have to, administration will have to make another $2.3 million in cuts. So I really do urge everyone out there to vote yes.
Mr. Almanyawi, we're gonna remind people to vote when we're in this venue, because the school district can't use resources to encourage people to vote yes.
I apologize.
When you are acting as a person and you're going about your own business on the streets of Albany, you can say whatever you want. You have not given up your First Amendment right to be a school board member, but we cannot use district resources to encourage people to choose a particular way to vote. We can inform them, as we do, about how we constructed the budget and why we think it was constructed in the way, but we're not going to tell them how to vote. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, I apologize. So to reiterate, there will be another 2.3 million that would need to be cut in the case that a contingency budget has to be enacted. So just to reiterate, thank you so much.
Actually, I did want to follow up with Ms. Roaring, because I'm grateful to have never lived through a contingency budget, and to ask what this absolutely necessary, is there any kind of clarification about what is considered absolutely necessary? I mean, does the rule allow for all the things we love about school, like interscholastic athletics and after-school clubs and all of that stuff? Is that considered absolutely necessary? I really don't understand that level of detail about the contingency budget.
So some of those things would not necessarily be considered absolutely necessary. Absolutely necessary would be the operations and maintenance of our buildings. It would be the health and safety of our students and staff. It would be providing instruction that aligns with the SED standards, learning standards. Some of those things that we love to see our kids be able to participate in would be things that we would have to be looking at pulling back.
And would we be allowed to use grant funds to subsidize some of that in this, if it it came to it that we had a contingency budget, would we be able to try and seek grant funds, or are we prohibited from spending even grant money on those things?
Well, grant money is a separate pot of money. That is not part of the general fund budget. It is separate and apart from. Whether or not we would be able to obtain grants that would allow for that transfer of expense would be something that I would defer to my colleague, Ms. Leffler, on.
Yeah, I'm not asking for a commitment. I was just trying to understand what is and is not allowable. So it sounds like if we could find the grants, we could spend them, but that if we have a contingent budget and a lot of people have a contingent budget, those grants are going to be pretty darn competitive over the next few years, especially as we're in what appears to be a long-term recession potentially. So, okay, thank you. Dr. Chatur, thank you for yielding the floor.
One second. Okay, finally unmuted. The button's very sticky. So, I mean, I thank Ellen for nicely describing the situation we've been in. One of the things that Albany is unique to Albany is also the fact that we have a very low tax base. So as part of the Government Relations Committee, we've been lobbying the state to recognize this fact and support the city. We don't have the tax base that other districts have. So that's a problem. We would love, to have everything that we've been offering. We've been doing most we can. One way to solve this problem, if we don't get money from the state or what have you, is to increase our taxes. Some districts have decided to put a 20% increase in their taxes. That we can't do that to the citizens of Albany who already are suffering, regardless of COVID. COVID has just added another layer of problems to the people who actually live here. So it's very frustrating to be in this position where you're making these decisions, but we have to look at what we can do for the city kids, and the people who live here. End of story. I mean, these are the people who are going to support education in the schools in the city. So I don't know how we solve that. We need more people to come in. If we start increasing our taxes, more people will go to the suburbs, which only worsens the situation. Just wanted to add that we've been trying.
I appreciate that. And actually, it's, when I first joined the board, I was really clear that I represent the whole city. I don't only represent the schools, right? We're not elected by the parents. We're elected by the district. And I feel that the boards that I've served on have really tried to live up to that commitment. As Ellen has said, this will be our 7th budget in a row less than 2%, of which 2 were less than 1% and 2 were 0. So we've been really trying hard to hold the line on taxes as much as possible. And I believe that Albany does need lower property taxes. I think we need to find a way to get to a point where we can be competitive with our surrounding suburban communities in terms of property taxes. We're pretty closer. And I think we've been doing our part to do that by keeping the tax rate as low as we have. We've been able to do that through extensive lobbying and very appreciative of the hard work of our delegation. Assemblymember Fahey and Assemblymember McDonald have been incredible advocates for us. And as a result, our state aid has gone up substantially every year that I've been on the board, except this one. So this question of why it looks so different this year, that's a very big part of why it looks so different this year. And so it is what it is, and we will go forward. And we are going to do what we can and what we must to make sure that the children get what they need. But it's not going to be an easy year. Now, let's see. I believe somebody wanted to be next. Who did I say was going to be next? Who? Tabitha?
Yes, but actually, back to that way that we all work so well together, you dovetailed into the comment that I was going to talk about, which was state aid and that how that factors in. And Sridhar basically made an excellent point about how our district is so complex. We have like a series of contradictions that we have like high needs, and yet, some of the most expensive, like we're perceived as affluent in some ways also. So I think people have to appreciate that. And then additionally, even when you were talking about charter schools, is that everybody has their choice, whether it's public, private, or charter, or however. And ultimately, sometimes when those students cycle out of charter schools, they come back to us. So we still do serve everyone, whether it be with transportation, whether it be for our SPED programs, we do serve people across the board. And additionally, I just wish that, for public education, we often have to bear the brunt of the cuts. And, basically we see almost every other industry get a bailout except for education. So really that's where I was going, but you dovetailed into that perfectly.
Ellen, I think you had an add-on.
I just was reminded of it, and with what you said, and one thing I had kind of also forgotten to point out was there are a lot of rules that restrict what level of planning and saving we can do financially. Just like I said, with regard to that $15 million gap, we are prohibited from spending more money than we have in any given year. There's a limit. We can't really do much planning for a rainy day. We are not allowed to put resources aside. We are required to spend. We're required to spend our revenue, and we're not allowed to have more than, I think, 4% unallocated fund balance at the end of the year. So there's a limit to. We can't really put money aside to do catastrophes like this. It's just not an option. We have to work through it when we get here. We're doing everything we can. We're using every resource we've got, and unfortunately, the quick turnaround for this budget was we've got to preserve just the possibility that if the funds come through, we can use them.
So there was something you said that I wanted to tag on to, and now I just jumped right out of my head. I think, Mr. Almanyawi, you had a comment you wanted to talk about as well.
Can I pass for the moment?
Sure, absolutely. Oh, I know what it was, Ellen. I wanted to I don't actually even know if some of the folks know this, that the American Society of Business Officials lobbied, and we lobbied alongside them to increase that 4% limit to at least a 6% limit. I mean, it's a good reason for there to be a limit. We shouldn't overtax people so we have their money, right, sitting in our bank account just in case. On the other hand, we could use some just in case money, since if you're only allowed to carry, it's like you're only allowed to have 4% of your annual income in your savings account. So let's suppose you make $50,000, right? You would only be allowed to have, somebody help me with the math, $2,000 in your savings account in case your furnace went. I mean, it's just not really enough, but that's, we have to work within the regulatory environment that we are working in. Let's see. Anybody else have a comment? We've been pretty much commenting rather than questioning, which is okay. That is also all right. But if anybody has a comment or a question, I think we have not yet talked about the other small ballot proposition. I just want to not forget that one because I know it's an important one as well. We have a very, very, very small ballot proposition, which is $13,300 plus closing costs to purchase a piece of property on Delaware Avenue or near Delaware Avenue, which is adjacent to the Delaware Community School. And that school has always been landlocked. And there was a catastrophe in that building. I can't remember if it was a fire or a building collapse, but something bad happened with the building that was nearby, and it became owned by the Albany Land Bank. We applied to purchase that building, and we have we're accepted. And if the voters approve it, we would be able to acquire that building for the good of that school, which has always been landlocked and not had enough land around it for recreational space for the students. And they have had a wonderful garden program and environmental education and all the things that schools need. One thing to be clear about that is, unlike Proposition 1, which is a tax increase of 1.96%, the Hurlbut property is paid for out of capital reserve funds, and there is no tax increase. Let me say, even if there was a tax increase on $13,300 spread over the entire city, it would be about like 1.00001 cents on each person. But still, we do have a no tax increase on that because there is money in the capital reserve for that. There also will be, I know Mr. Almanyawi will be on the ballot again, as well as two other folks, one who wrote in tonight, Ms. Leet and Mr. Kane. And there will also be 8 people running for the library board of trustees. I would like to know why they're more popular than us. I would just like to point out we have 1 seat and 3 people. They have 2 seats and 8 people. We are more fun than they are. Karen will believe me. She trusts that I'm teasing her. Anyone else have anything they want to comment on or ask about the budget? I have one microscopic question that I do have to ask the superintendent for clarity. Mrs. Adams, in your remarks, I can't see your video. Maybe you just turned your video off. Oh, there you are. In your remarks, you said we would move instrumental music to 4th grade. Does that mean that we have a conclusion on that? Because up until this point, we have been hopeful that we've been able to do that, but we were only committing to 5th grade. And I'm wondering if you just were hedging there a little bit, or if you do have an actual commitment at this time.
We are very close to working that schedule out. I know that Mrs. Bechtel has been working on that, so I will clarify that we are still working on that, and that is a goal. As we talked about at our last meeting, we know that we did bring back that 0.5 in order to, that's one of the things that we did as we reviewed again. We brought back the 0.5 of the position to assist with that. There are some other pieces that we're looking at as well.
Okay, I just don't want anyone to leave this meeting thinking that a commitment was made, because it sounds like we're still in the fingers crossed process. And again, my fingers are crossed for so many, many, many things, because while the contingency budget would be bad, much, 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 much worse would be a significant decrease in state aid without a compensatory increase in federal aid. That could be extraordinarily difficult for us to attend to in a way that still preserves the program for our students. Anyone else with a question? Okay. Double checking my agenda and that I did not forget anything. I know you all want to hear the happy words, but we're not going to say the happy words. We're going to say the sad words. I need to entertain a motion to enter executive discussion.
Do we not do committee reports?
We don't have them on the agenda, but if you have something that you need to share, we can certainly make room. Or am I looking at the wrong meeting? Am I on the wrong meeting? Oh, I am. I'm on the May 4th meeting. You know what happened is I went to the May 14th meeting to get the budget report. Thank you. Darn. I'm not even ready for the not so happy words. Board committee reports. Does anybody have a board committee report? No?
Facilities met, right?
Yes, I'm sorry. Facilities did meet. And one of the items that you heard about tonight was a change order. And so that was taken care of. We continue to get updates on the construction at the high school, and that is continuing to take shape. They are continuing to take care of some of the little things now that the building is empty that they couldn't do, and also continuing on the big items. I think you've seen a lot of progress from at least the street view of the art and music wing taking shape. So, this is all great stuff. We have talked a little bit about our 5-year capital plan, where we are, accepting bids, I believe shortly in the fall there for work that needs to be done, especially air conditioning, HVAC kinds of mechanical kinds of work. New Scotland comes to mind, and I believe Harry Gibbons comes to mind on that. So we also have a database that will go live to support the recruitment and messaging to have more of our community members on the workforce side of our construction, particularly people of color and MWBEs participating in our construction activities. So we'll continue to do that work and engage in that work. And so our next meeting, and Ms. Wilson, my calendar is so messed up. Do you recall what that date is? I know Ms. Roaring probably has it in her head. It's first in June there.
I believe it is the, I have it, I'm so sorry.
Usually
June 16th, because we meet as a board on the 18th.
That's right, there we go. Thank you very much. And we will.
Thank you, Ms. Roaring.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Roaring. I usually have it made note of it, but I actually was not prepared to do a committee report tonight. So
Well, I wanted to say also, there was a point, you did excellent from your memory, but there was a point where you cut out a little bit. So I wanted to also, like you indicated, we're working on a high school amidst all of this. And just people will be happy to hear that we started off, I think at the last meeting, 3 meetings ago, with like 4,000 open punch list items. They have since been closed down to like nearly 500. So we are making
less.
Yes. As we speak less, and like you mentioned, the art wing and the band room and the mechanical room and things of that nature, like we are still trugging along, and in some ways we are able to make some headway because, of course, sadly, school is closed. So I just wanted to circle back with that too.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Wilson and Ms. Roaring. Appreciate that. And Mr. Elmanyawi, who's also on the Facilities Committee. Thank you very much. And we'll see you in mid-June there for our committee meeting. Thank you.
Any other committee reports, Dr. Chitale?
Policy had, worked hard to keep this time open so that Ms. Bowie is not swamped with policies. But as things have it, we have new policies that need to be considered, and so we'll be meeting next week on the 27th. One of the policies that will be discussed is the public comment in this online format, so to keep our meetings more efficient. And some of the other policies that we'll be talking about are the usual ones that are done at the beginning of every year, like the code of conduct and what have you. So you'll have more the next board meeting.
Beginning of every year in school board land is July 1st, because that is the beginning of the fiscal year for the City School District of Albany, and maybe all school districts. I don't know that, but so we are approaching the beginning of the year in school board land. Anybody else have a committee report or other liaison report? Vicki?
I'll go after any other committee reports. Anything?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I really wanted to just express that we have a very, very hardworking staff at every single level in this district. And I work with a lot of schools across the state, and I couldn't be more proud of what we're doing in Albany City Schools. The staff is incredible. And again, from cabinet to administrators to teachers to instructional coaches, TAs, behavioral specialists, hall monitors, food service workers, nurses, and carpenters, and all of those, all of the custodial staff. I just wanted to give a shout out and really wanted to say to you, you have taken such good care, I believe, of our youngsters, our bus drivers, everyone, such good care that I'm really going to ask that this weekend, please, please, please take some time out to care for you, yourself, and your family. Just a day at least, please promise that, because I can see and I can feel that everyone needs that little bit of pause time and break time. But I just wanted to reiterate, I couldn't be prouder. This is a tough discussion that we're having. Budget night always is, but this is worse. But I just wanted to say I am personally very proud of this district and all who are part of it. So thank you.
Ms. Wilson.
Basically, not another committee report, but you asked about liaisons, and I do sit on as a board liaison to the Albany Fund for Education. So I wanted to take this time to plug that they have a application for special COVID-19 educator grants, which are live on their website right now.
Thank you very much. We are very lucky to have them as a partner for the teachers and the other faculty and staff in the City School District of Albany. And we are grateful for all of the work that they do to support our children, and especially wraparound services in Albany. It's really terrific to have them. Anyone else for a comment or question? Mrs. Adams, did you have your mute turned off a few minutes ago? Did you have something to add? No. Okay, any items? Let me check my agenda, and I'll actually be on the right meeting this time, so that'll help. Any items of other business besides those we've already covered? Okay, then I would like to entertain a motion to enter executive session for the purposes of discussing the evaluation of particular personnel. Motion by Ms. Wilson, seconded by Ms. Krejci. All in favor? That is unanimous. The board will now enter executive session. We do not anticipate coming back to public session tonight. We will exit the executive session and then immediately adjourn the public meeting. So I love you all, but I'm very grateful that except for those of you on policy committee, I will not be seeing you for 2 weeks. So have a good 2 weeks and we'll see you.
Happy birthday, Ron Musto.
Oh, happy birthday, Ron. Bye-bye. See you guys.
Good, Ron.
Okay, bye.